What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and we're going to do a path tier list to follow up the other tier list that I made the other day. And with the path tier list, this is more to show where the character itself is their strongest. Because when I did the other tier list, it was more just as an overall package and how do they fit into teams. But if you're looking specifically for what the best path is for each character, that's what this video is going to be. And I just changed the colors a little bit just to make it look nicer, you know, because I do so many tier maker lists that I get kind of bored looking at red, orange, and then yellow. I always like get rid of the subsequent tiers. Now, the same warning or I guess explanation that I give at the start of every tier list, so you don't get it twisted, is that even if something is low tier, that doesn't mean it's unusable. That doesn't mean you can't win with it. That doesn't mean you can't do challenges and hard content with it. Everything can win in this game, especially if you're crafty enough and plan ahead well enough. It's not as much RNG as you think. A lot of people like to blame RNG, but there are a lot of times you can rewind just even, you know, a couple nodes back or something and realize, oh, I made a mistake right there. And then you try and figure out what would have likely been more helpful going forward. So yeah. Crusader. Starting us off with Crusader, we have Wanderer. And Wanderer's got some okay stuff. The damage on smites, alright. The combo effect is okay. Stunning Blow is actually really good, and I'm surprised we don't see this more from just people in general. I guess it's hard because a lot of things on Crusader, it's tough to really fit everything in there because he wants to do so much. But like, Stunning Blow, being able to stun at base, so no mastery required, and the fact that Crusader is slow as hell, means that a lot of people that can do combo even at mid speed, can usually get it up before it's his turn. And then it removes crit, specifically when upgraded, which, as I always talk about, crit and riposte are great tokens to be able to remove. Zealous is like weaker Dragonfly, not that Runaway and Crusader are comparable or the same character by any means. However, Zealous is just kind of lackluster. Just doesn't quite do enough unless you're like stacking trinkets. As I've always said though, if you stack trinkets, team, like the right team, the paths, the memories, whatever, everything is fantastic. So at base, it's not great. Inspiring Cry, great stress heal when it's mastered. When it's unmastered, still good. Like, you know, Jester's Inspiring Tune unmastered is 2 stress, so it's good. But you really want that 3, because the 3 is a nice breakpoint. So if you get up to 5 stress and drop down to 2 instead of 3, all the bad stress interactions start at 4. So it's better to be 2 stress away from that than it is to be 1. I'm sorry, I keep touching my face. I've got some sleepies in the eyes and various other allergies and such. I don't know. It's really dusty. Yeah, Rallying Cry, the new one is pretty good. No cooldown when mastered, so, you know, I don't really think you even need to master this, although it is nice to get the self-target too. It's good. It's not amazing, but it's good. Q on this path is okay. He already has a lot of access to healing, so I don't really think he needs more from this, especially at the cost of a combo token, although he can heal 30% of his life with 2 combos. And then the target gets a healing debuff, which is irrelevant for most encounters. Battle Heal is pretty solid compared to Divine Grace, and you'll see that it actually stacks up pretty well in terms of like efficiency. Bulwark of Faith, one of the best just taunt moves in the game, really good for this character. Holy Lance, great move again. It was great in the first game, it's great in this game, hits moderately hard and can burn, and then when mastered, 15 crits, pretty freaking good, and then it combos. Radiance got a massive buff. This is actually a pretty good ability now. you need some kind of burn support on the team. But the fact that it's flat damage boost and not just like percentage, because a lot of things are percentage, but at the presumable twilight of the game's life, we're starting to see more flat damage, and that's really good. So Zealous now does 4 to 5 and keeps burning the enemy if you have Radiance up. And you get the Res Pierce. Like, this is actually a very viable spam now. And that's pretty nice. Tenacity is okay. I mean, given 2 regular block is alright. Him getting a block, like all these masteries for him, where he gets some benefit too, are usually pretty good. The base versions, understandably, aren't as powerful, but even then, some base version moves are still good to have, like Battle Heal, Bulwark, Stunning Blow, those are all good. Holy Lance. But yeah, with Tenacity, it's alright. Actually, let's just do these one at a time. Sorry, I haven't quite worked out the pacing yet. So regular Crusader is out of like the 4 tiers. I don't know if I want to put like 1, 2, 3, 4 and like split them up that way. I'll try to. However, there are a couple characters like Flag where a couple things are insane, you know, and same with Man-at-Arms. So I'll do it when I can, but otherwise, I think base Crusader is okay. Like, it doesn't break anything. It's okay. And it has a bit of utility, and he slots really well into any party because that's just what he's always done. And usually historical stuff can be a fallacy, but in this case for Crusader, I think it's justified. Like, he is someone that just slots in and things get better. Aggressor. This will be interesting. So with Aggressor, what changes is he gets Execute on burning targets on both, what is it, Reap and Smite, but Smite gets Execute 2, which is really good compared to Execute 1, which, if they have Burn, they're dying anyway. So the Execute 1 doesn't really do much outside of, you know, just proccing on kill things, which is still okay. Again, the minus healing received doesn't really do much, but the upgrade, getting a strength token on Killing Blow, that one's okay. So you can do some stuff like, if you're able to, you know, get 1 or 2 strength tokens, maybe you have a dance team and he gets thrown into the back, like you move past him the turn after, and then he can Holy Lance with a strength token. Maybe you pop Radiance, like that's a lot of bonus damage right there. But that does require some foresight and stuff. And then, like I said, Radiance, like the buff for Radiance really is what made Aggressor a lot better. Because Radiance was pretty much unusable before. I know people try and use it. I've had people talk to me and just try and argue with me and, you know, say stuff or whatever. But really, it clearly was a not good button before, which is why they buffed it. And since they buffed it, no one's complaining that it's OP. Everyone now unanimously agrees that the move needed help and it's better now. So that doesn't prove my point. Who knows what does? But yeah, this Radiance buff is really good. They could have just made this Aggressor only. Man, it would still be fantastic. But they gave it to every path, which is nice. And then Tenacity, the kill and healing, or I should say, yeah, the melee skills heal when killing a burning target is not great. It's just not. The debuff resist is nice though on Mastery, and I don't know why the debuff resist is 3 turns instead of 4. Like, you can't have 4 to match. The reason it's not great is just because, you know, mastering it, you only get 5% more healing and the debuff res. So like, that's the pull of it. Otherwise, you can't use it in rank 4. And also, you wouldn't normally do it because it's melee only, so that doesn't affect Holy Lance, which is ranged. However, you know, only getting 5% extra healing, that's like 2 hit points, you know. It's not great. Which means that when you look at Aggressor, your big winners here are Smite with Execute 2. And then if you have a really good setup to keep reaping all the enemies over and over, like if there's ads that spawn, like Shambler, Collector, then this really pops off. Otherwise, really the biggest pull in this path is Smite. And now that you have a good Radiance, this path is pretty much gonna feel its best when you hit Radiance and just Smite stuff. That's it. You can also set yourself up with Zealous, but the issue with Aggressor is just Crusader's a little too slow to make everything work. He's got like 2 base speed, I believe. Yeah, 2 speed. So if you look at Aggressor here, you know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna hit Reap, or not Reap, Radiance at the end of turn 1. All the enemies have gone. Then you press Radiance, and then turn 2 comes around. All the enemies have gone again, in most cases, because they're usually 2 or higher speed. So on average, they're going before him. And then he's able to do stuff at the end of turn 2. So he's always, he had this problem in the first game too. He's always like a turn behind because of how low his speed is and what he wants to do. It's not terrible when you're playing support because it's still better to go first when you're supporting because you have more control of what's happening, but it's also okay because it's more reactive anyway. So it's okay if you go after. Yeah, my biggest problem with Aggressor is that most of the time when you're picking skills, you lock yourself out of like Bulwark and the support stuff. And this is really tough to give up. So like if you're going to run a really dedicated Aggressor comp where he's, you know, the damage dealer and picking up all the kills and stuff like that, you give up his support, which is a pretty big request to do. Let's see, where'd I put this? You know, I did say I want to split them all up as best I can, but Aggressor's like, okay. It's not great. You give up the support stuff, like I said, and it only has like 1 meaningful draw. Although the new Radiance is good, but guess what? The new Radiance can be used on any path, so it's not Aggressor exclusive. He said while he sipped his Starbucks. It's not real coffee, chef! Templar. Kind of a weird one. You get stress healing, and then you get a guard, which is really good. You get this weird tenacity for bonus healing. And same thing again, it's like, it's just really slow, because you need like another healer on the team to take advantage of this if he's gonna like drop the buff. Like the buff's pretty good. I also wish you could do it in the back though. Just because I actually kind of wish, if this was more rank flexible, I think I would rate it much higher. Just because if we had a guard from like rank 4 or 3, like Sergeant and I guess Vestal, right? Sanctuary guards. So, you know, if we had more backline guards, Bounty Hunter, like that kind of stuff is really good because a lot of the stuff in terms of guarding is, you know, you guard like a backliner from the front. But it's kind of cool to guard a frontliner from the back. You know, there's different things to consider, different ways of playing at that point. Also, I like how Reynald's like coming over the tooltip every now and then, like, hey man, you still talking? Is it still my turn? So yeah, I don't think Templar is super good either, but it's good. It doesn't break the game or anything like that. And it just leans into what he wants to do more. So Tenacity is kind of a weird one. I don't usually run it, not that it's bad. The Smite stress healing's kind of whatever. Like, I want to give my combo to something else. But it does synergize with the guard. And the guard is where I think it's at. Guard's a very powerful mechanic. A lot of people are brain rotted on taunt. Understandably, it is dumbass easy to get value out of taunt. But guard's also very powerful, and in some cases it's better. Some. Not all, but some. The regen transfer really doesn't matter. You shouldn't be looking for that. It's just if it happens, it happens. You know, don't delay guarding someone because you're like, hold up, I have to build up my regen first, and then I can hand it off. No. Especially because one of your sources of regen is a taunt, which means they're not hitting that person anyway. Yeah. So with Templar, I think it's closer to what he wants to do, you know. So I think it's a little bit better. In Banner, it's a very quick discussion. It's Wanderer plus. There's no way around this. The Zealous doesn't really matter because it's not a great button anyway. And Banner, it kind of wants you to play in the back, you know, where it's a backline supporty kind of Crusader, and they want you to use Zealous instead of Holy Lance that doesn't get any buffs. Not that it really needs it. And you get some interesting stuff. Rallying Cry got buffed to be 2 immobilized. That's a huge buff. That makes it a lot better than it was, because the one immobilized was alright, but you had to like really time it and know what you're doing with it. And Tenacity removes Daze and Stun, which is surprisingly helpful, and you can use it anywhere. So the big thing is Battle Heal. You get 1 extra charge of Battle Heal, and it heals the target more. This is so close to like being better than Divine Grace. And I know it's... You look at it and it's like, well, the unmastered version heals for 40. And then the mastered version heals for 50 plus a 10% crit. It does. However, Vestal has to charge up Conviction, which she may not have when you need it, and they have to be at a lower HP percentage. You can use Battle Heal from Half-Life for 30%. So presumably you can bring them up to 79 if you're like the exact 1 HP under or something. So like Battle Heal is just so insane. And the thing is too, you don't trade off anything. You can ignore everything else that's highlighted, and you can play regular Wanderer style Crusader with just a stronger Battle Heal. You still get Taunt, you still get Inspiring Cry, you can still Smite and Stun. You can still Holy Lance if you want to. It's great. It's also a little bit broken just because of that. Like if they changed it so this heal was usable from like 3-4 only, that would definitely change how the path plays, but they didn't. So that's why I think it's Wanderer Plus. Alright, who's next? Duelist. Oh, goodness. This is going to be a tough one. Oh, Sahar. Alright. I'm going to try and not take as long on these. I'm sorry. I know some people like the long videos, but also I got to make sure I get my point across efficiently. So yeah. Duelist, a big stance hero. And the gimmick is to... It feels wrong calling it a gimmick because it's like... Gimmick has a negative connotation, but the strategy is to be in a stance and it modifies your moves to be a bit stronger. Touche having all this reach is really good for Wanderer because, you know, it moves around so much, so it's nice. Feint's just solid overall. It's not amazing, but solid. Disengage on this path is pretty cool. The push and pull and the dodge is all nice. Plus it puts you in a stance and ignores riposte, which is important. Flick doesn't change on any path, and next to one's alright. So Flick's just a weird one. Like, it's good. It's not game breaking. So I guess that's a good thing, right? It's just that in a game like this, when the RNG can be brutal, or like a mistake can get someone killed, like a simple mistake can literally get someone killed and just ruin something. You're always looking for the strongest stuff. So Flick is alright, but it's like not something you usually grab unless you're really leaning into it. Prep, strong move. Puts you in aggressive, and you get some riposte damage when mastered, which is alright. But otherwise, it gives you the blood. The combat item without the downside. So you get a strength, crit, and speed token from anywhere every other turn. If you stay in aggressive. That's pretty strong. The boot is alright. The upgraded version gives you a combo. But it's weird that you have to be an aggressive with this. Like, it would be nice if this had a defensive ability as well. Like, if in defensive stance, you can daze them. Like, not on combo. It never becomes a stun, just daze them, right? Just something else to help it. Again, this move is possibly really strong, but it's just not for this game. The cooldowns in this game are too short to make this really insane. So it'll be interesting to see if they make DD3, if they keep, and it's a similar style, if they keep something like this, because it could be good in that when there's more planning around it. Duelist just came out too late to make this super good. Flash, big damage move. Y'all just lunge forward, do damage. When you're in aggressive, you get damage and crits. Fantastic. Meditate, this is like the normal opener for her, just because you go into a stance and you get dodge. And that's a really good turn start. And then if you have one of her trinkets that starts her in a stance, Then all of a sudden, you know, you can start with Riposte or Taunt, which are both good. Like, this is the safest turn 1 she has, and it's a good one. Coup de grace, execution, ignores block and weaken, pretty nice, and consistent damage. So this is a solid move. You just don't, like, there's just a lot of other stuff she can do too. So usually you don't find yourself slotting this as often, because a lot of the time it's going to be like Feints, Flesh, Meditation, maybe Prep, and then 1 or 2 other moves of your choice. You know, Touche, Flick, whatever. I guess if you don't run Flesh, then it opens some stuff up. But Flesh is like the easiest way to do good damage with her. And so, in terms of... Actually, I gotta look at one more thing too. So the stance tokens. This is Wanderer. Yeah, so killing something, she heals 10% of her life. That's pretty nice and aggressive. And then on Riposte, gain dodge 33% of the time. They say on kill, it's just on Riposte hit, you heal, which is nice. And then the dodge on that one, so. The stance tokens are pretty cool. As for that, in terms of like the Duelist power level, I mean, I say it's a little bit up there. Because she can Flesh, and her Riposte stuff is pretty good, and she has no downsides for doing it. So it's pretty solid. The next one is Instructress, I believe. Yes. Instructress, really you only get a couple different things. The coup de grace change is kind of weird because like it loses the consistency and the rank targeting. Although I think the other one needed a stance. I guess that's the trade-off, and it's got more crit, way more crit actually. If you kill something, it lowers the skill cooldowns, but usually the thing you're buffing with Again and Ruthless, that's going to do all the killing. So it's like, if she ever gets to snipe something, then she can stack like the 10% damage buff per stress. It's like, that's kind of cool. Disengage does help synergize with this because you go back to an invert stance, so it's not like you have to specifically go to a singular stance, and she can use it in rank 3 anyway. That's pretty cool. Yeah, the big winners here are, again, where you can give someone an extra turn or bonus damage per stress, which is a really good buff. Like, don't sleep on that. A lot of heroes float around 3 to 5 stress normally, just whatever you're doing. And being able to give them, you know, at the minimum, like a 30% damage buff for 4 turns comes out to quite a bit, because it doesn't take their turn, it takes Duelist's turn. Touche's the same, I guess, but yeah. And one of the good changes is that she can use Ruthless on herself now, which is awesome. Very good. I was double checking my mic to see if it worked. Because sometimes I get a half hour in and it's like, I forgot to redirect the input. Okay, so that was Instructress. Instructress is cool, but it needs a target. It needs like a big hyper carry. So it needs like a Leper or Warlock, Abomination. Like Moribund is really good for this. Like really good for this. And even Hellion, Bounty Hunter, just anyone that's capable of slamming something for a lot of damage makes this like worthwhile. Even people that don't hit that hard can make some good use of it, but you want someone that can take big advantage of it. Intrepid. Oh, that's right. We gotta check out the stance token though first. So, Instructress, gain on killing blow, regen 3, which is all right. And then in defensive, gain on killing blow -1 stress, which isn't as impactful now that she can heal her own stress. She's not usually doing the killing, like I said before. Intrepid. Let's look at the buffs first. So you're gonna, like, I'm gonna, wait, I skipped it. Okay, because it was on the list in that order. All right, we'll do Intrepid anyway, but I don't think this path is good. It's a gambling path. It can be fun, of course. If luck is on your side, earlier I was talking about luck not being a huge factor, but luck is a massive factor in this one, because The lowest you can get someone's accuracy in this game is 12.5%. So that's a blind against the dodge plus. Then you get Echo's Claw on my chair, but then when you do that, you get 12.5% accuracy. So you can't go any lower than that. Which means, you know, if you're spamming dodge plus from meditate or feints, you know, she's going to get hit eventually. And this is talking about dodge plus tokens, not even the coin flip dodge tokens. So this is a path that doesn't have too much impact without the mastery to give you a bunch of dodge plus everywhere, because the gimmick's not going to work if it's just coin flips. Even if you have blind, it's only 75% chance. So you want consistent 75% chance, not sometimes. And if you can get it to 12.5, that's better. What I'm trying to say is 12.5% is not as low as you think when it's rolled, you know, 2 times a turn, possibly. Like one or 2 times a turn, like 6 times a fight. Unless it's a boss, obviously. Like, one of those is going to get through. And one of those is going to hurt pretty bad. And also, she loses all of her Intrepid stacks if she takes any damage. So even, like, damage over time, she'll lose it. I'm only talking about the defensive stance, because the aggressive one, where you lose dot res or 5% crits, and if I didn't say it, you have to dodge to charge up these stacks. So just in case I forgot that. Like, the minus dot res doesn't matter. She has good dot res. However, the moment she dodges twice, she has 20% across the board. So it just doesn't... Like, the impact is so minimal. So it's like... It just doesn't feel like it's that big of a downside, you know? Whereas... the 5% crit is a really good upside. So, I mean, maybe you just play this in aggressive the whole time. That's something I have not actually tried, which would be pretty good. But the thing is, meditation is something you always want to hit because you get a bunch of dodge from it, but I guess you can just spam feint, but that still puts you in defensive eventually because you have to be in a stance to get the benefits. Yeah. So the big issue is Intrepid, because with Intrepid, the 20% damage bonus she gets sometimes doesn't give her any damage because of how it rounds. You know, it'll be like +1/+1, sometimes +0/+1. And that sucks. That sucks big time. Whereas the 40% damage received, because she has to be in a spot where she's dodging constantly, if you want to stack this up, she dodges once, she almost has a vulnerable token against her that you can't cleanse, you can't invert it or anything. Dodge twice, and Duelist with her 28 HP can actually get almost one-tapped by a lot of things at that point. Because some of those, you know, random 7-8 damage hits that crit to 12 are going to crit up to like 18-20. Which is, maybe not quite 20, but yeah, about like 17. And then if you dodge again, obviously it's going to be over 20. And those are just like the middling hits. You get hit by a Trophic Cut, which can crit for like 15. You know, and you got 80% damage received, you're taking 25 or whatever at that point. It's going to be a lot. So it's a really bad buff overall. The idea can stay though. What would fix it would be something like when she dodges, she gets like +1 damage dealt and then like +2 received on hit, not even like damage over time. And then you have to cancel damage over time, ruining everything. But as it is now, it's stuck in the past where Red Hook was using a lot of percentage modifiers, and it did not scale up well with that at all. So, Intrepid, Dumpster. Again, you can win with it. It's not good. It's not. So, just understand that. You're playing like the casino duelist at that point. Antagonist is really good because you get the ability to debuff with Touche, and it's got really good reach. 3-3 is pretty long, like fantastic. And also, if you don't want to play a movement-based duelist, this is it. So she can just sit up front, dodge tank, and do stuff without getting blown up. She can sit in the mid-range and still throw out tokens, and all that's pretty cool. You can always just throw out Weaken, which is better than it used to be, and Vuln, which is always good. And that's just your main move, and it hits for 5 to 7. That's okay damage. It does get a damage penalty, but understandably, because it's not a damage-only move now. Disengage is solid. You get to combo the enemy or blind against combo, like the double blind. Not when I use that much. I'd rather just throw out the weaken or vuln, but throwing out the combo is okay. And she still moves backwards though. So with defensive, you get the weaken also. Okay. Ah, I see. So actually looking at this, you have to, it puts you into defensive, but you have to be an aggressive to put the combo. So I guess if you want to do like a 2-turn thing, you can start up, wherever in 1 or 2, and then disengage in aggressive to give them a combo, and then disengage again next turn to double blind. That's a bit slow though. I don't know. I would not spend the combo on 2 blind personally. I'd rather spend it on a stun like this. So you can be an aggressive, disengage, go into defensive, and then boot them. But this also, when you're in, it's upgraded and you're an aggressive, it also combos. So you have a couple different ways to make use of the stance dancing. And the coup de grace in this one stuns in defensive on upgrade, which is pretty crazy. So your defensive stance is pretty strong, and you can just mitigate a lot of enemy damage by stunning them or hitting them with weaken. The tokens for antagonist, if she's in aggressive, she gets the res piercing, the debuff res piercing, which is nice. And then in defensive, she applies them with a debuff that lowers their debuff resist. But I just think this is better. Like, why stack up a 15% or a 5% debuff res thing over and over? And it says sword skills, so they went back to like that old terminology of like shield skills on man-at-arms, and it's pretty much like any sword attack instead of like all this other stuff. I don't know. The tokens don't concern me that much. However, I will say that antagonist is the best pass she has. Like, it's really good. Really good. Debuffs, easy to pilot, doesn't require dancing, can stun and crowd control. Like, it's all there. And she's pretty fast. There's no gimmick where she takes extra damage. Flagellant. Let's see. Wanderer. All the moves are, normal on this one. This is like the base thing. So punish is just damage over time. I should use this. Punish, just a solid attack. Fester is an okay attack, but it's like the first one you take off when you get new stuff, which kind of sucks. Deathless, pretty good on any path, especially Scourge, where it's really good. Endure is okay, could be better. Lash, I wish you could use this in rank 1. But even though you can't do that, it's still really good. Acid Rain does damage like Plague Grenade, but a little bit different. More got nerfed finally. So it's like 4% weaker. It's not even that much weaker, just a little bit weaker because you can't spam it. Suffer is not that utilized often, or it's not utilized that often. It's okay. Like, it's a weird extra step to dot clear. And it would be better if you just use a different dot clear that's like immediate, Because when you siphon the dots, it moves to someone else, and then you still take the damage for them to go away. But it's on someone that can take the hit, so. Sepsis, really good on Wanderer. Like, I see a lot of people using Scourge, and they talk about Exanimate, but, I mean, Wanderer's still insane in terms of power level, and it's because of something like Sepsis. Undying's a fantastic move. I'm surprised this doesn't get used more, but it's mostly because Deathless is usually really good. Necrosis kind of needs a Blight-heavy team, but when you have the Blight-heavy team, it's a pretty good ability because it doesn't hurt him. It's a bunch of healing and it's a cleave. So it's pretty easy to kind of set this up quickly too. Like if you have, even if it hits 3 people, right? You hit a Plague Grenade into a Punish, or what is it? If you have a full Blight team, could just be like Plague Grenade or Acid Rain, and then you have like Poison Darts, Noxious Blast or something, then it's on 3 or 4 people. And then you just Necrosis turn after. Well, it's really cool. It's a fun one. I made a video on this one. I really like the necrosis spamming. Like I said, a little hard to set up, not as good against bosses, but just cool overall. Maniac. My favorite path, but just not good. It's not like good and great, but also I have to put down Wanderer real quick. So we're just gonna put him in S because it's great. He has all the tools. He has more. He has a great sepsis, and he still has like Deathless, Undying, and Lashes. So he's got a lot of good stuff. Maniac though is focused on token mitigation, flipping, debuffing, and all that. And it's good in terms of when it can do stuff. Like the whole goal is to lash someone, take all their negatives, and then next turn sepsis it onto them. It ignores blind, but not dodge, which is sad. He can use it at full health if he has a negative token, which is nice. Otherwise, you know, just drop it when he's under half. Let's see. It also moves combo when upgraded, but like, you know, if you're waiting for that turn where you can take, you know, like 4 debuffs in a combo and just dump it on someone and kill them, that's not going to happen. I think the only buff this really needs, which may be too powerful, honestly, it could be that Lash's Gift hits the party. It could just be something, it takes one effect from each person. So, you know, some of those enemies that throw out a ton of debuffs, you can grab a couple from everyone, or like one from everyone, or one from 2 people, and he might have one himself, and then you can throw it on them. It didn't work that well with, with Emboldening Vapors on Physician, but I think here it would do better just because of how the character operates. Instead of like flipping negatives to positives, you're taking negatives, keeping the negatives, and then getting rid of them as your own attack. It says transfer too, so it should mean it bypasses debuff res. And then Acid Rain, like it weakens, but it really just doesn't hit that hard, and it's usually not worth doing. Although it is good against General, specifically, because you ping the back, but then also weaken him, and he hits pretty hard. So Maniac is my favorite, but Maniac is probably the weakest. Sad times. Is it that weak, though, that it's like Intrepid tier? No, it freaking isn't. No, it is not. Alright, next is Exanimate, in terms of the listing. And Exanimate is... really, you just change the same skills on, what, each one? Almost. Exanimate is pretty close to Wanderer, except it's more Blight focus, especially when you get, like, low health. And it really wants a Blight team around it, so you can do stuff like juice up sepsis and throw a bunch of damage onto them. Otherwise, it plays very similarly, and the thing that, well, it has more Blight capabilities. The issue with it, though, is that Lash's Gift doesn't heal enough in terms of, like, the actual power. You know, it's only healing 10%, and if you have a crit token, I can't remember if crits are double healing or 50 or plus 50%. I want to say it's double. Either way, let's just assume it's the half. So even at 15%, that's not a great one. And what ends up happening a lot of time with Exanimate is, even though you're wanting to like throw blight onto stuff, he is just gonna spam Lash's Gift because you just get crits and stack up tokens and stuff like that. So it's a powerful ability, but it's like, it's so defensive and delayed offense, you know, for a path that's like mainly offensive. So it's okay. It could use a little more help, but it's not like outright terrible. So I'd put it probably in between. And then the last one is Scourge. Scourge is really strong because of the Deathless. The Deathless, being as strong as it is, isn't as like overpowered as it may seem at first, because Wanderer you can heal from anywhere, which is nice. That's the same with all the other paths, but Scourge you have to be up front. Scourge also heals him, and there are situations you run into with this where the target needs the heal, but he can't use it because his health is too high. You can still run Undying, but at that point, you know, you may as well do a different path. The Toxic spam is good, because Toxic gets stronger on this one, and the color coding is messing me up. I gotta find Toxic. Yeah, I had to double check, because Scourge operates differently. However, the difference is in when you hit Toxic instead of the token itself. So Scourge gets slightly more HP, goes from up to 45 instead of 30% life. And also, the Scourge benefit is he gets 1 blight damage dealt till the end of combat. Which means that even though Toxic has a cap of 3, every time he melts down, he's just going to do 1 more blight regardless, including Toxic. Which makes Toxic honestly one of the strongest paths to solo stuff in the game, because it gets stronger perpetually. It has infinite scaling. The other nice change that Scourge got was this Lashes Gift, which is really strong. And, you know, did Scourge need this? Not really. Not to this power. It's honestly way, way strong. It gets kind of overshadowed in the update because of Leper free actions, which are worse. However, this is still strong as hell. So I'm not sure why Flag gets the buffs and stuff, but the nice part is, even if it didn't have the crit chance, it would have stress, like self-stress healing capabilities. And that's pretty cool. So having the new Lashes gift means you can actually spam Endure, and you don't have to push into Toxic. You can lash yourself back down, and then only Toxic really on your terms. If I had another tier in the middle here, this would be a little bit easier, because I don't think Scourge is like S entirely, but it's not like A entirely. But I don't like those mid tiers, like the in-between, so I'm just going to say it's up here at S with the new Lashes gift specifically. It's really strong, and the only thing that makes it not as insane and overpowering as it could be is that a lot of Scourge's power is when things go wrong. And if things go wrong in this game, you may not even die in the current fight, but you may die in like 30 minutes from it. Like if you have too many negative relationships and they screw you too bad, that kind of stuff. So it's great. Don't get it twisted. Next up, a sub-date rework, Leper. Hits way harder across the board. I have made 3 videos on this now. He didn't get extra rank usage flexibility, which kind of is sad. He just got damage everywhere. And I've had people comment saying, well, he's known for his damage. He should do the most damage. That's fine. However, this game has always been damage focused because all of the control tools are too weak inherently outside of like 3. So the fact that he got more and more damage instead of like some utility makes it so there's even less interacting with the game. The whole thing is just he hits really hard and he just kills something each hit. And the way he currently works means he doesn't even have to interact with his teammates as much to do it. And that's because of Revenge giving him strength immediately. I was supposed to hit alt, but Revenge giving him strength immediately and being a free turn. And that gives him strength following the turn after for the rest of the battle. This button's a problem. I don't think it's going to get addressed. It's on live now. And like I said, I made 3 videos talking about this. Otherwise, yeah, just more damage, a little more cooldowns and stuff. Everything's just damage on him. And he gets 2 immobilized, which is good. Because he doesn't have the flexibility of like Solemnity in 4 or something, which would be an insane quality of life thing for him. And also, the sun went away. Very cloudy out today. This isn't quite S, but it's really good. It's almost S. Tempest. Same thing, takes negative tokens, gets bonus damage on negative tokens. And operates very similarly to he did on Wanderer, where he just gets a ton of damage when he hits Revenge. And then he scales off negative tokens. So same thing, no rank flexibility, a ton of damage, which means that Tempest is pretty much in the same spot. Poet. As an interesting Revenge, you don't keep the power level as long, but you get like mini jinx. Like the fact this is on the offensive version, like on Revenge and not Withstand, is insane to me. Whereas Withstand gets some useful buffs. And they're slightly better than his dot res, because his dot res is abysmal. So this is okay. Minus 100% crit doesn't matter, because you can still use crit tokens. I've said this before as well. And he has the highest HP in the entire game, so him losing block is not a penalty either. And those are common responses to when I say this, so I'm going to say them again right now. Otherwise, Solemnity is still solid, you know, works a little bit differently. He gets regen instead of just on-demand healing, which he can turn the regen into damage with, I think it's Ruin, yeah. So he can convert block to strength and then regen to crit. And that's kind of what annoys me about this path, is this is the tank path. However, everything is pointing you towards damage. Like, break converts all the block you steal if you have revenge into regen, and then you turn the regen into crit. There's also just revenge, killing anything with revenge, you can turn into crit. You can give him Undying from flag, turns into crit. And Solemnity turns into crit. So it's like, even on this path where Withstand should be dominating, it's not. It's just good. Whereas Revenge turns into pure offense on the tank character, or the tank path. Even to the point where you give like 2 out of 4 Jinx tokens for being hit. It's a little weaker than Jinx since it's not guaranteed, and it's also not when attacked, it's just when hit. However, it's still really good. But I don't feel this one's quite as dominating as these two, so I'm going to put it slightly lower. And then there's Monarch, where you get the Monarch stack, the Oath. So more stuff you kill, you get permanent damage buffs for the rest of the run or the Kingdoms campaign. And having the ability to copy your positives onto allies is alright. And you remove your negatives. Chop is pretty much the same, it's just a little bit weaker, but then it scales better with the Oath. Bash, I don't know why Bash is listed as a change from Wanderer. Oh, I guess because it gets the stun against combo. And that's a little bit of a thing. But like, see, this is what I'm saying. It's a move that immobilizes him, which is really powerful for this character. And then it does 5 to 9 damage and stuns against a combo. Whereas, you know, Stunning Blow does like 4 to 6. And all it does is stun, but also takes off like crit and strength, which aren't super common. They're just annoying when they happen. And then Monarch can spread the Oath percentage damage increase around to its allies. With Ruin. And so what really irritates me about this character, not just the free action revenge, is just all 4 of these are damage paths. Again, I've talked about this extensively. However, due to the stacking nature and, you know, it could be a little clunkier in terms of like when you're divvying out everything. Plus he wants to be in rank 2, which is a weird spot where Leper wants to be in 1 because it's a little bit safer for his mobility, or his rank, I should say. I don't think Monarch is as strong as the other two, but it's still like good. And the thing is too, in terms of like rating this against other characters, like, that's why Leper's A, because just collectively, this is like a set of A tier paths, but against themselves, like against each other directly, I think these two are better than these two. All right, next, Vestal. Got some pretty good buffs like a year ago. Candlelight's okay. Illumination's okay. Judgment hits decently hard. Divine Grace is okay. Not as strong as Battle Heal or some other heals, but like that's okay. Fortitude, Consecration is okay. Ministrations is great. Mace Bash is not great. Sanctuary is great, but you kind of want a second stress healer because she can't heal her own stress. Consecration of Light, the best button the character has, because it's a technically 25% chance to be crit tokens when upgraded, which is a very high like percentage. Divine Comfort is okay. Like, if it was 1 more point higher, it might be overpowered. But 1 point lower, where it's at now, is not strong enough. So it's, like, really close. And then Mantra is, again, okay. So a lot of her stuff is pretty mid. However, just the package together contributes pretty well. You have Dot Cleanse, crit tokens, and, like, a burst heal. and sometimes a guard. Like, whatever you want to run out of those. All of that together is a solid character. How does that work for this, though? I would say maybe A in terms of power level. Like, that one's okay. It's pretty good. With the other ones, Confessor got the huge glow up. It's a debuff focused path, you know, in a game where it's really nice to have more debuffs because it's just interacting with the enemies more. Whereas when you just have damage, it's like, well, sorry, you don't get to play the game and do your strategy when I just nuke you immediately. Whereas debuffing enemies, planning ahead and stuff like that, you're understanding what the enemies can do. And it might be a little bit slower, sure, but it's fun in a lot of ways too. Now, Handlight's okay. Illumination is insane because it can remove up to 3 positive tokens. This includes Riposte and Crit, the 2 hardest ones to get rid of. Judgment gets a stun at 3 conviction, very powerful. And Mantra interacts with negative tokens. So if they have negatives and you have 2 conviction, you can remove negatives from them. With that in mind, having access to stuns and negative token interaction, plus all of her other stuff like ministrations, Consec of Light, I think Confessor's S. It's really powerful. There's 2 S's in it. How can it not be? Right? Next is Seraph. I don't think Seraph is actually super great the more I play, because the consecrations being longer means you're just on cooldown with less buttons for a longer period of time, which ultimately isn't like super bad. It just, like, if you have a bad build, you know, like if you have a cooldown heavy thing, like you're running comfort, ministrations, both consecs and like judgment, you're gonna run into dead turns. Or yeah, you can like judgment, you know, I'm looking at Mace Bash, but you like judgment, sure. Or if you run divine grace on that, like, you may just pass or something. So it's a very annoying skill set to run. So I don't like that she gets consecration every time, or conviction every time the consec activates. Whereas with Confessor and Wanderer, she gets 1 guaranteed per turn. Whereas with her getting 2 a turn, like, it takes so long to set up, she's usually behind in short fights. And that's pretty much it. And then you have Mantra, which she can only use in the back to heal everyone. It would be nice if she could use this everywhere. So that in mind, I think Seraph's like mid. I just think it's a little bit, it's less active than regular Vestal. And I guess it'd be the same. I don't think it's great. Yeah. We'll just leave it in the middle. Then we have Chaplain, my favorite path, but honestly not a great one. They did spruce it up a bit, where she can, you know, have more stuff to do up front, like ministrations, which is the best change it could have got. However, the Sanctuary buff doesn't stress heal like it used to, and this Mantra only getting a small upgrade and letting it apply to guarded heroes on Mastery is kind of weak, because it's like half the effect. So it heals up to 30 or 15 on 1 person, or 2 if you have double guard, and then heals like 1 or 2 stress. Although she can stress heal if they are under 5, which is not common, so that makes it okay. Otherwise, this just isn't like a super strong path in terms of what you have access to. Like, you can use one of the consecs, ministrations, sanctuary maybe, like Mantra, and then like you're already fighting for space. You can use Comfort in 2, you can use Mace Bash up front. Mace Bash isn't that good. So it's like, what do you do? It's just it's like a weaker Man-at-Arms. I don't like doing the direct comparisons like that, but, you know, it's kind of a weaker Man-at-Arms. Oh, Man-at-Arms can't heal though. Sure. Neither can she up front. When you have Chaplain, she can't grace out of 2, so you just get regen, which is alright. That's it. So Chaplain's the worst of them, which is unfortunate because it's my favorite. Man-at-Arms. Base Wanderer Man-at-Arms does way too much stuff that's way too impactful for this game. Crush, solid move. Defender, amazing. Bolster, upgraded, amazing. Hold the line. This character doesn't deserve that, but he has it. Bellow, amazing. Retribution, it's more taunt. Taunt's brain off. And then like command, stand fast, are okay. Stand fast has more taunt. Courageous abandon. Did I say that instead of command? But yeah, command is alright. Courageous abandon's alright. Strategic withdrawal's alright. But like between these moves, like defender and bolster, and the fact he can immobilize himself for 2 turns, withhold the line, and do some okay damage, it's just too good. You know, if you wanted to nerf this, it'd be he can only use it out of 4. Something like that. But he can use that at 2. This character has dominated the game for all 4 going on 5 years of its life. And that has not changed. It won't change. Unless they keep balancing and they do something like something drastic, you know, but he's already gone through a rework, so it's not happening. So base Man-at-Arms is insane. Best character in the game. Bulwark, a lot like regular Man-at-Arms, except he converts block into stun, which is powerful AF. Yeah, as long as you have 3 block tokens, even as long as you have 2, you can stun them. If you have 3, you just get a bonus on piercing. But like, you can press stand fast to generate block per turn, and he can get block from any other source. If he has a leftover one from like defender, like you defender someone that's not going to get hit, you know, so it lowers the chance. Or he's bolster, hopefully you don't get hit, and you're always generating block. You can strategic withdrawal into it, you know. Just really strong. So he has all the good tools, and then he can stun. Pretty easily, too. And constantly. You can get it to the point where with, like, a Trinket or Consecration of Light, or Fortitude, rather, if you get a couple lucky rolls and it's all just block, you can just stun, like, 3 times in a row. And he gets a block off of, Hold the Line. I forgot about that. So, literally, if he has stand fast and no one hits him, he can just stun every turn for like 3 turns. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then he has another good bolster here. A little bit different, but still fantastic. The Bulwark is also S. It's almost as good. In some cases, it's better. Sergeants, I'm going to put into C. I don't think Sergeant's like super duper good. It's okay. The winners on Sergeant are Retribution and Bellow. The rest of the stuff is okay. The thing I dislike about Sergeant the most is you're forced into like a frontline healer or stress healer. Not a stress healer, but just a frontline healer most of the time. Because you want to be in 4. So it's either you clog up your backline with like Man-at-Arms Vestal or PD or something, and then your reach kind of suffers. Unless you're really focusing on the other 2 characters doing it. Or you run like Flagellant Crusader. Which, you know, again, that kind of limits your options. It's not as fun. And this character is pretty much like 2 buttons. You want to get the bonus speed immediately. If they have a negative token, all the better. And then you want to hit Retribution Mastered like the turn after. Just so they have all the speed, and then you buff them. And if they take any damage, like 1 damage, you get the strength token. Sergeant's alright. And next one's going to be Vanguard. Vanguard is okay. I don't think it's as good as the other ones for sure. I think Bulwark and Wanderer are way better. And with this, you're just getting stacks and doing damage. You know, this was like the Red Hook special for a while, where it's just get your path token or path stack up and then hit something hard. So it's a lot like Intrepid, but way safer. Way safer than Intrepid ever was. And Courageous Abandon can do some pretty good damage. But like, this Bellow kind of sucks, and Stand Fast is alright. So, I don't think it's that good compared to these 2. But it's a little bit better than Sergeant. Next up is PD. Got through the rework. Wander's pretty much the same. So her Blight kit's pretty strong. IS is still really good, even though it's got a longer cooldown. Battlefield Medicine's one of the best heals because it gets rid of Dot. And then she's got some other utility. Like, they actually buff Magnesium Rain, which I was surprised at. And, you know, Ounce is kind of okay, and the rest of the stuff is okay. So, I'm sorry I'm not talking extensively about, like, the okay stuff. It's just, there's nothing to talk about, you know. And so that in mind, base Plague Doctor is still, like, A. She's really good. She's very effective, really good. You can use her the entire game. And then Surgeon gets a weird stacking incision thing. And then you get Burn Dealt, but, like, her only burn move is Mag Rain. So Ounce is alright. Does give some pretty solid resists across the board, but they're not super high. Vapor's arguably worse because it's too defensive. You know, compared to it. You're giving a strength token to someone that hits 4 to 7. Like, that's not much. You know, that's 6 to 10 mastered with that. So it's like, the more important thing is actually the block token, because she's very fragile and she's up front with this. Killing Blow, she gets regen, but she doesn't do anything with the regen, to my knowledge. But you get a interesting Disoblast. So yeah. Oh, and I guess you get this. Which is kind of weird, because, like, you know, she's up front in rank 2. She's going to be spamming Incision. And, like, that stacks up over and over if you keep feeding her combo. And then what, you COD it? Yeah. An interesting idea for a path, but it doesn't have enough power. Like, it doesn't have a super huge payoff by itself. You have to really lean into a dot team. And then, like, COD that, if that's what you want to do for all your damage. You only get one use of it, too. You can't even spam this thing. So, I don't think Surgeon's that good. Alchemist, I'm going to put in the same tier as regular PD. Alchemist is still good, but it's not as good. It's still her best path, I would say. However, it doesn't have the blanket res piercing that it used to have. Like the minus 33%. Or the bonus 33% chance to pierce through. She doesn't have that anymore. So it's not as good. The crit rates are still strong. She gets synergy with other DOT. So it's kind of like Surgeon, but better in a lot of ways. And then if you COD here, and they have all 3 dots, she can do a bunch of damage. Mag Rain's there to help you spread out the dots if you need to, if you're missing one that you have to apply. So if they have 2, she can put the 3rd on and stack the other one, you know. And for some reason, she gets a really good Disoblast. Like, this is almost better than Firefly, because it dazes too. I think Firefly is like 1 point of damage higher, but the daze is pretty freaking good, honestly. So it's a solid path. It's very damage oriented, but it doesn't have the free blanket res pierce that it used to have. So while it's good, it's not as good. I can't put it S. Position has some interesting stuff, but ultimately it's not great. The COD is probably the weakest. The Incision's alright because you get the combo guaranteed, but like that's where it stops. You know, you can get up to 2 weaken on Noxious. Plague Grenade's the same. Ounce is different, slightly better. Emboldening got fixed, or not fixed. It got changed and it's still not great. And then Disso's okay. Yeah. That's about it. So I think that Physician is also kind of where Surgeon is. It's not quite good enough. It's got like 1 or 2 things that are really good, and that's all it's going to crutch on and expect to succeed. Highwayman, base version of Highwayman, is solid. Not game breaking, very flexible in terms of what he can do. Like what stands out? The double crit tokens on take aim. Duelist is still okay. Pistol shot stuns, which is nice. Tracking's actually an interesting skill because the longer the game goes on and the more stuff they add and change, this gets better. Just because there's more stuff that wants combo, there's more stuff that gets like stealth, more stuff that might get dodgy. And he can use it from anywhere with no cooldown, so it's like pretty effective. that's about that's about it in terms of like what there is to discuss. Although robbery is pretty good too, because it can mitigate crit and riposte, and then when you can steal it, he can use those tokens. Like everyone can use crit, but he's like one of 3 characters that can use riposte. That means when he steals it, it does something. Rogue is very similar to Wanderer, except it can't play in rank 3 that easily. Like it wants to be 1 or 2. And if you go up to 1, you give up pistol shot, which is a great move. You get point blank though. But point blank's not buffed for this path. So it's like at that point, would you rather have the flexibility and play Wanderer or something else, right? And you get execute 2 on Wicked Slice, which is really nice, but also you get restricted ranks. So it's like Rogue does not get the rank usage that would make it really good. In terms of that, they're both just like B. Sharp Shot, still the strongest one, just because range damage is more important overall than melee damage, because reach is so important to like so many fights, and reach is the hardest thing to find. Well, not the hardest, but reach isn't too easy to come by across a lot of characters. So being able to have something that does direct damage like this from range is good. So pistol shot doesn't stun, but it hits really hard. Double tap changed a little bit, got like 1 less damage, and you know, still has some utility. PBS really good on this path. Grave shot really good on this path, and you always have take aim to fall back on. And so it does really good consistent damage. It's just that Highwayman's damage ceilings are not high. You know, if he's not getting fed strength, he's critting for, you know, like 15 to 20 depending on the ability. Like pistol shot, I mean, but then also point blank shot goes up too. So if he doesn't have any damage scaling, he's only critting for like max 20. Yellow Hands got a nice little buff in terms of what you call it with Open Vein. Actually, I think the other one got Open Vein buffs too. Like they doubled the bleed on this instead of just giving it higher bleed when you hit them, which is like the same thing, but it scales better with trinkets. And Open Vein is still kind of middling on this path. Grave Shot's okay, you know, but like this is more of a setup path in terms of like you want to debuff people for other bleeders. And then he has the weird highway robbery where, you know, he gets bonus bleed dealt. He does steal tokens, so that's pretty cool. And then he like lowers their bleed dealt. So if they're not bleeding you, like they don't have a bleed attack, it's not that great. However, you still steal tokens on a 1-turn cooldown. That's always going to be good. Although the crit rate's lower for some reason. Like I don't know why they didn't increase the crit rate on this, even though they changed the launch ranks. That's a weird one. It's only 5%, I hear people saying. And you're right, it only is 5%, but at the same time, it's only 5%. They couldn't give it to him. Honestly, it just feels like something they forgot. Yeah. Yellow Hand is also kind of with these guys. It's not great. We had the Yellow Pass incident, which I kind of forgot what it even was at this point. I think it was something with Double Cross. And, yeah. He's a damage character that is a little too... He's not modern enough compared to, like, the other ones now. Like, he is made with a different design philosophy, so is Grave Robber, and then we go further, and then we get stuff like Ravager, Wanderer, Leper, freaking Arsonist Runaway, Orphan Runaway. So he's not... He's way back in the past, comparatively. Hellion got the rework. This is a big day for her. We have Wanderer. The big takeaways were the Bloodlust change, where she gets crit, strength, and speed, depending on the tokens removed, which is really nice. They made toe-to-toe less spammy, and they made Adrenaline Rush a little bit weaker. But then also they made it scale better too, so I can't really say it's weaker, you know. Otherwise, that was kind of the extent for a lot of her early stuff. And then If It Bleeds got slightly better. And then Hellion changed to where you can't slam it turn 1. Unless you're Ravager, I think, so. Then they buff Revelry, which was a fine move before, but now it's, you know, a little bit better. So with all that in mind, she gets double low health passive damage, which is nice, and she doesn't get the Ravager. She's not competing against the Ravager damage buff for being in rank 1 now. Means that she is all right. Just realized I should have zoomed the camera in just to make it a bit easier to read. I apologize about that, but that's what we got now. Ravager compared to base Hellion is S. It's a risk reward path, but it's incredibly safe. And if we take a look here, she gets to ignore Winded at low health, and she gets to heal when she kills a corpse. She can cause herself bleeding at the start of the turn with Winded. So the Winded's somewhat harsh, but she can always just stay under 33 because whenever she kills something, she gets the 25% heal, which does not put you over this one. So she always has the ignored Winded effect, essentially. The big things here are Bloodlust, because Bloodlust does a bunch of self-damage to get you under low health, so you can use all those buffs. And when it is equipped at all, you have Execute 3 when you're at Death's Door. So that means whatever you hit, you're ignoring Winded, and you have Execute 3. So nothing is going to survive it most of the time. Like if you hit Howling End, nothing's going to survive it usually. Obviously, bosses are a different story. So just doing that means that you will be able to just hit really hard, come off a Death's Door, and stay safe. Yop is kind of underwhelming. It does damage, you get Winded, and you get a chance to combo and remove enemy dodge. So it's like, alright. I don't usually find myself using this too much, although it does ping death armor and stuff. Adrenaline Rush, she gets regeneration for clearing Winded, which is really good. That's going to counter the effects of the bleed and stuff pretty well. Not only are you removing it, but you're also just regaining health from it. Breakthrough hits the back too, which is an odd choice, but it does that. And I think Wanderer, did this change too? No. I mean, it did change. It's a full cleave, but this one's not as important to me compared to like the rest of the stuff. And let's see, Ravager hits the back too, which is kind of odd, but whatever. Like, it is reach, so you can start out in 4 and go forward 1. Like, you can, what is it? You can breakthrough, and then have like something to do to like take damage from Winded, which is nice. And then Howling End, you only have to be under half health to use it, so you can spam this one if she gets low. Not only that, if she's at Death's Door, she can do 50% bonus damage on top of the 25, so she gets 75% bonus damage on this hit without any other modifiers like strength or vuln and stuff like that. Which means that she can get to low health, hit Death's Door, have Execute 3 because this is equipped. She can Death's Door herself too. And, you know, be relatively safe, especially if you take care of the bleed or she just doesn't get one. Somehow, if you give her a bunch of bleed res, I think, works out too. So she can get low health. Even then, like, she can get to low health with Bloodlust, let the bleed knock her down to Death's Door on that turn, and then bounce off it with Howling End. That's probably like the easiest thing to do. So it's a very powerful path that puts out a lot of damage, and it has like no risk behind it. Or it has very little risk, easy to mitigate risk. So it's really good still. Berserker is, it got help, but it's like not enough, you know. And I'm going to put Carcass with it. Not really too much of a fan of these two, even though I wanted to be. But with Berserker, you get this pull on Iron Swan, which is okay. Apply on crit, you get combo, whereas before you just did combo. And I guess, and like you have a lower damage tier because you do a pretty solid bleed. So it's a bit of a strange one, but it leads into if it bleeds, you know, so you can do that now after one, what is it, Iron Swan. So this kind of plays like DD1 Hellion a bit, where it would be Iron Swan, kill the backline, if it bleeds on the middle two, because it still did pretty good damage in that game, and then bleed out spam on the first guy or unit. So that way you could like work through the party in the correct order. Get rid of the backliner, which is usually the most dangerous. The other backliner, which is usually dangerous. the mid rank, which can be kind of dangerous, but sometimes isn't, and the front, which is usually a tank, like an enemy tank, and you could stall off that. Or you can just hit Bloodlust, or not Bloodlust, Bleed Out, which did pretty good damage in that game. Actually did great damage in the first game. So you can kind of do the same thing here. You can Iron Swan, do some solid damage, bleed, kill the backliner with Bleed, most likely, and then spam if it bleeds a couple times. And then you can hit Bleed Out on rank 1. It would be nice if this hit rank 2 as well, but it doesn't. And this way you also escape the winded penalty for a little bit. So it just works out that way. And then Breakthrough wins you, but also deals bleed on the front too. And then when you have some bleed stacked up, you can hit Hellion. So you just need to have bleed in general, right? Because it just scales on bleed damage, yeah. It has a cooldown, but no other cost of entry, so to speak. But yeah. Apply on crits, remove enemy bleed, which I guess is just cool, because when you're critting, you're ignoring winded each time. And she has she does really good with crits because of that. And winded lowers your bleed res pen, which you can kind of offset with a trinket or a debuff, so it's not as bad. It's a weird... I don't want to just say weird, because if I say, oh, it's weird, it sounds like it failed the vibe check, and that word is going to do all the heavy lifting of an argument. I don't want to do that. What I mean is Berserker is fine enough, but it's not like overpowered in the sense that, you know, overpowered stuff is usually what's going to be in the higher tiers. It's too fair. It's too fair of a path. And Howling In only really pops off if you have a dedicated bleed team, so it's not like that strong on its own. Although, you know, 6 to 12 and doing half the remaining bleed, maybe like another 6 damage or something, that's okay. Although now we have Carcass. Carcass has the winded benefits, so you actually get block per winded token. She can heal when she gets crit, which is nice. Although this res buff at low health is kind of ass. It'd be too strong if it was at like 66%, but it's too weak at 33. However, it can't be 50 because all of the low health buffs for her are at 66 and 33, so it just kind of go against everything else the character's doing. So it's in a weird spot. Also, I don't know why it's a 0 to 2. I guess just because, you know, instead of making everything a percentage chance, like it has percent chance to heal 1 or 2, it's just easier this way, so presumably it's 33 for each one of these, which is alright. Let's see. Yop is solid. Does weaken and stun against combo. Could be better. But also gives her 2 taunt. Iron Swan breaks guard, pulls, and moves her back, which I don't know why it has the back move. Like, I guess so it makes it so you can break through. But like, that's it, you know? So you stack up Winded with Yop or something, and then you move back with Iron Swan, and then you break through to put the Winded on the target for 2 turns. Like that's kind of slow in terms of like the battle pace, because most fights are like, if it's not a boss fight, most fights are over, you know, like it's been decided on turn 3 or 4. It may go to 5 or 6 if you're stalling or like someone has a bunch of dodge or some crap, but otherwise most normal fights end decisively at about turn 3 and then 4 at the latest. So Yop turn 1 gets some Winded also. I don't know why these are separated, but okay, so yeah, Carcass uses this one too. So you lower your speed, you get some Winded, and then you move back and you have 2 Winded. So this damage is already cut in half essentially, you know, with the -2. -4 actually. And then you, not even toe to toe, you break through the Winded onto an enemy. So like the end of turn 3, you're giving something 2 Winded. It's not terrible, but again, it's slow. Like, I would rather since you can yop out at 2, I would rather just skip the Iron Swan step and just hit yop and then break through. Although you don't get the extra, you don't get the extra winded, so you can't use Howling in. It's weird. Yeah, so it's a bit clunky. It's like a turn slow. It's a turn too slow from what it wants to do. Is what I'm seeing. Because you can't spam yop. You have to use another winded skill. You have to use like yop and then bleed out, or yop and then revelry. Yeah. Yeah. So you do those, and then you can either give an enemy 2 or 3 winded, or you can save it for Howling in. So it's not great. The more I remember about this, I'm confident with where I put it there. Alright, Occultist. Base Occultist is... Let's see. I have a first draft of this chart that I did on my other monitor. So I'm checking that sometimes, but I'm also kind of revising it on the fly. So with Occultist base, take a look at him. I think a base Occultist is okay. Let's see. The things I kind of dislike is like the random stealth synergy. It's like he hits a combo target, he gets stealth. And he gets stealth from Weird, having 2 up tokens. I think you can get stealth off of Chaotic Offering, but that's inconsistent. And so in return for these, he gets like Malediction, where he always combos the target for 3 rounds. It's alright. And Stars is still a great button. So I guess he's okay. It's solid. I'll put him up here in the A rank. The debuffs are solid. Stars can still cost 2 and ignore block, which is really good when mastered. And the stealth synergy is just kind of a throwaway, but it's there. He can stealth another target, though, with Weird. And that's good. So that helps out some other characters. So I guess that's still a positive, right? Yeah. Okay. And this combo refresher thing is actually pretty good, considering a lot of characters want combo now. So this actually got better the more stuff they changed. Yeah, so I think A is good for it. And then Ritualist, the curses get weaker. Arguably, like he gets debuff pen with up the unchecked power, but like, you know, when the target attacks, Occultist gains up for 2 turns or 1 turn, so it's like you throw this out and you get 1 up unless it's mastered, then you get 2, and the crit rate jumps enormously, which is what they were doing all over this update. So it's like for 1 mastery point, this has a better chance of sticking, and then it gives you up, because you can't get the up without them, you know, swinging with this, so you can't get the debuff pen initially. You still have it from like combos and killing blows on sack stab, which is nice, but you lose it on binding shadows. So your sources of up are these curses, which something has to happen before you get it, and then there's Chaotic Offering, which is still consistent at least. Weird removes all negative tokens, which is pretty good. Like, it's always nice to have more token mitigation, so I think Weird's also solid on this path, surprisingly. Malediction, the tokens are a little inconsistent, and 1 or 2 of them are pretty much dead draws a lot of the time. Like, block plus, you know? Like, when you can also have access to crit and strength, and the game's inherently offensive focused, and that shouldn't be a hot take, because it was this way in the first game as well. Healing moves are, by and large, weaker 1-to-1 against enemy attacks. Both stress healing and HP healing. Which means the game favors offense. That's just the mathematical way that you reach that conclusion. It's better to do damage than it is to turtle up and, wait it out. You still can stall and get benefits, but in DD1, healing was only good because you could stall indefinitely once you knew the rules. And this game has less opportunity for you to do that and abuse the system. So having dodge and block plus are good, but like you're kind of looking for crit and strength to end the fight faster instead of taking damage and healing like half of it. Although the upgraded version of inverting all positives and removing riposte is still pretty good, but like a lot of enemies don't get a ton of positives at one time. Like a couple do. The Obsession boss can steal a bunch and get, a lot of positives. There are a couple other enemies that get a lot of positives at one time. Otherwise, you're kind of flipping one for one. And outside of that, you're also hoping that whenever you hit it, you get a token to use the turn after. So it's like a delayed offense again. So he has to get these up tokens, which you have to wait for the enemy to do stuff or die, and that's how you get them. Well, you get one for using Vuln Hex, but, and then after when they die, you get another one, so it's still slow. And then once you get up to 2, then you can throw the Malediction on. So, like, you're seeing how this works, right? You can either use the cooldowns and throw, like, a Weakening Curse and then a Vuln Hex and wait, and then have enough on turn 3, maybe 2 if you're lucky with how these roll out, And then you throw this on there, and then your allies have to attack it to get a buff. So it's like turn 3 is when it starts getting returns back to you. And you may not even see the benefits until turn 4. And if you back up to what I was saying before, where most fights are decided by turn 3 or 4, by the time you're getting value out of this, it's way late. It's just super late. So this makes it better against a boss. And you have to ask yourself, do I want to get all these random tokens fighting a boss, which is okay? Or do I want to remove negatives with my up? Or do I want to just slam stars with my up? Which are great alternatives. Because again, damage is like the highest value currency in fighting. So yeah, ultimately, I don't like this path. Ritualist was my favorite before. I didn't care about the boosted healing. I just like the consistent cursing. And it still kind of has that, but the curses are weaker than base Occultist. In exchange for getting up. Like I said, it's just too slow. And I hope people don't use that type of logic against me where it's like, oh, they ruined his favorite path, so therefore he hates it. No, it's they changed the path, and the changes made it worse in a lot of ways, which I hope I thoroughly explained. Aspirants could be A. Let's see. You get the Killing Blow, Sack Stab for up. You still have that. Weird removes dots, but it doesn't remove its own inflicted dot. However, the master version doesn't inflict... actually, no, it does. It just jump line, so it like confused me. Yeah, I don't know why it's actually still up there. Oh, you know what it is? It's a sequencing. So you can see that it cleanses all dots and then sticks the bleed after. Because if it was at the top, it'd work differently. Yeah. So just to make sure the bleed sticks on the ally. That's kind of ass. Really? Like, oh, I'm going to remove all this damage over time, but I'm going to try and leave them with a 2x3 bleed at the end. Which can still be dangerous. It's worth the risk in most cases, of course, but like, it's not entirely safe considering you have to give up the 2 up tokens for it. And then Binding Shadows moves him, and he gets stealth again, which again, just odd synergy choice. Just really odd. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. It's just weird. Again, I'm doing it where like the word weird is gonna do all the heavy lifting for my thought process, but like, I don't know what else to call this one. It's just a strange choice. It's not bad. It's not overpowered. It's just strange. There you go. Stars does the good damage, doesn't ignore block, but then also sets off a massive burn. But also, if you have burn from your unchecked power tokens, you copy it to them. It's not a transfer, so you're still burning. However, you can move more burn onto them. So this could be like an 8x3 burn when you hit them or something, which is kind of cool. And where he gets unchecked power besides Sackstab and CO is when he moves, he has a chance of getting up. So he moves back on Sackstab, and then he moves forward on Binding Shadows, and that's where he's supposed to generate all of it. But this is better in a dance team, where he can consistently get 1 or even 2 up in a turn if you have a dance team that moves him around a lot. So he can fuel these up pretty quick. That's good. So it has the potential for really fast unchecked power generation, and it's a dance team, which I like dance teams. Dance teams are also inherently like the hardest thing for most people to build. It's like one of the things I get the most questions on. So how's the power level? Like, the up generation is good. The team dynamic, dance teams are actually some of the strongest teams out there. You know, if you build them correctly, which is a loaded statement, but, you know, just a lot of enemies try and beat you through disruption. Shambler, some act bosses. There are other enemies such as, like in the Shroud, the Bosuns, they move you around a lot. So a lot of enemies try and beat you through disruption, and Aspirant gets stronger in disruption. And dance teams are at their strongest because they combat disruption very well. So that means that the archetype this falls into is really good. The unchecked power usage has to be good too. And I would argue it kind of is. You know, removing all the dots, I went over this already. Like, that's pretty solid. This malediction is the one that we had for a little bit after the first Occultist changes, the first reworks. So it inflicts dots whenever the enemy's damaged, and it feeds itself, so it's a feedback loop. And that means that the malediction's really good against bosses. But then you also have stars. So I think okay. I'm pretty confident with this. The unchecked power generation is good, like the trigger for that's really good. And the things you do with unchecked power are good. So I'm going to put these kind of equal to each other. And you still get the curses and stuff. So yeah, not much changes out of base Occultist in terms of the value, but you really can't fit the curses on the bar when you're doing all this other stuff. So I guess that's it. And then we have Warlock, which is the strongest. It can hit for like 90 damage still with, you know, very little effort. And that's good. So yeah, Malediction, this is the worst skill arguably in the entire game. It's definitely the worst use of up across all the paths because the heal is a little more consistent. However, you have a chance of healing the enemy as well. So it's like offensive healing. But like, it's competing against this button, which hits really hard. And the bonus damage you get from up just scales more and more. So unchecked power increases damage dealt and received. I think it's by 2. It's 1. Okay. So yeah, this is something Intrepid could use, by the way, like this type of buff. Anyway. So he self-burns, but then also gets 1 damage per token, and then you can always guard him and stuff, or taunt, and redirect the damage anyway. And then the damage bonus gets doubled. So if he has 3 up, and this is mastered, he gets 6 bonus damage on this. This becomes 16 to 22 base. You feed him a strength token. It's, let's see, I said 16, so it's 24 to 33 with a strength token. So you're seeing how the scaling gets out of control very quickly. And then you put on a damage trinket or a quirk or both, and the damage scales even harder. And then if you have a Vuln token, you're already hitting into the 50s, like without crits almost, like 40s into the 50s. Then if you crit, it's like 90 damage. So it's not that hard to make this one-shot enemies. The issue is you have to get the up. And getting the unchecked power is very easy on this path because you either get it passively with Chaotic Offering, or you can also hit Chaotic Offering, not end your turn, and then also get more up that way. There's a lot of damage in this this path, which is why it's always going to be good. Anamnesis can ignore tokens and then turn them into damage on enemies, which is pretty cool. So if they get layered up with a bunch of defenses, then you can hit this, and it's good. Otherwise, you just hit stars and you do an absolute ton of damage. And then the weird reconstruction with this is also not terrible, because it applies a regen that counters the bleed directly. So if they do happen to bleed, you also give them regen, and it one-to-ones itself so they don't die, because they happen at the same time and cancel out. So yeah. Warlock is OP. Looking at Jester, we have Wanderer, which is largely the exact same, except they nerfed Encore slightly to match the Mezzo version, so it's more of a down, or drawback rather. And so between the two of these, I would say Mezzo and Wanderer are very similar, except Mezzo has stronger buffs at the cost of bleeding teammates. Tune is worse on this path. It's arguably not that good at all. You know, it's good in a pinch, but not great. But you just don't have to run it. You can run a different stress healer. And in return, you get a finale that scales off bleed and combo damage, which can be applied through solo. Even though Wanderer doesn't necessarily have that scaling, it only scales off combo, but has execute as well. This doesn't have execute, but if they have bleed damage, you do more damage, and they'll die to the bleed the turn after anyway, most likely. So I think these are very similar, specifically because they have the same Encore. You have stronger buffs, but they have drawbacks, and you can execute, or not execute, you can finale very hard with Mezzo. So I think both of these are just super good overall. I can't believe I'm saying Mezzo's strong. Like, once you get away from Inspiring Tune and you don't necessarily lean into the buffs as hard, Mezzo in some cases can be almost Wanderer plus, which is actually insane to say. So for instance, with Mezzo, you could just run an almost normal Jester loadout and have like Ballad, which is over here. Forgot to actually give him Mezzo. So yeah, you can run it like this. If you just want regular Jester with no stress healing, you can run this and it's really good. Or you can include the finale package, the finale loop also if you get all the masteries, so the cooldowns are lower. Oops. Yeah. You can still use, you know, solo finale, encore, and then like Ballad, you know, and just spread all that stuff around, and then you can solo finale encore again after. Really powerful loop. Still a great set. Virtuoso I don't think is that good, because you have to stack up your encore buffs and then hit encore, and you can do it up to 4 times. And you can spread a lot of buffs around, but that takes time. You know, you can do 2 battle ballads to make sure everyone gets like 2 strength or a good chance of a crit token, and stack those, and then like encore, ballad, encore over and over. You know, and that's going to be like your entire game plan that fights, but also you have Inspiring Tune, which is solid. So I guess the thing that really holds this back is just how many things you have to throw out to get super value out of Encore, and you give up the free action. So because of like the pace of it and giving up the free action, I don't think it's that good. And the same thing with Soloist. If we take a look at Soloist, it has this stacking buff here, where every time you dodge something, you get bonus damage, and then finale gets extra damage. Stacks up to 3 times, and when you finale, you lose all the buffs. But the thing is, you know, Harvest operates differently. It's a frontline ability, and it heals, you know, if the target's bleeding. So what ends up happening is, if you have any source of bleed, you can just sit there and not spend finale. And you just keep the melee buffs, and you can just get 3 extra damage on this hit. Like a 7 to 9 cleave that self-heals is not bad. Having your Fade to Black or Razor's Wit just be 7 to 10 the whole time is pretty good. So it's like all the power in this, I think, just lies in the damage buff. And the finale stuff is nice. And you can chain the finale if you, if you keep it going that way, like if you dance them back up to the front. Otherwise, yeah, you get 3 uses of it, which is a lot. But I don't think overall it's as strong as having a free action from the other 2 paths that are good. And then also restoring the finale buffs. This doesn't even like restore your, your melee buffs. So it's like when you get to that point where you get all your dodge and stuff like that, either through Razor's Whip, but more importantly solo, that's kind of what you're going to be looking for, is solo spam. So you get all your buffs, do some damage with the melee attacks, and then burn finale. And then the next turn, you encore, hit finale again, hit encore, hit finale again. That's like all 3 of your charges. But that's all your damage too. What it ends up being is the path is just really clunky and just slow. And I know I keep throwing that out there, but it's really important if you can do all of your strategy on turn 1 or 2 compared to turn 4. You know, if you have to go to turn 4, 5, 6 to get value out of the path design, outside of a boss, it's too slow for 90% of the combats in the game. Some of you may not care and value that in a different way than I do, but considering that regular fights make up the vast majority of combats, since you only have to do 1 lair boss required and 1 mountain boss, everything else is optional. So in all of those other cases, you don't have to do these things. So it takes too much time. So that's why I value it like that. You may not. You may think that because it has like great scaling and it can consistently pump out stuff, that something like Soloist is S tier. But that's my reasoning. Runaway also went through the reworked blender and came out the other side a bit better in most cases. But with the Wanderer kit, it got a lot of stealth synergy, which makes more sense than what Occultist has. Because Occultist gets stealth and it's like, he's in stealth. Runaway gets stealth, which her old in item synergized with it. She had trinkets that gave her stealth. But then also now, we have stealth tokens themselves on her doing stuff. So in this case, like Searing Strike does more damage if you have stealth. Firefly has more res piercing if you're in stealth. And I think those are just... Oh no, Backdraft too, yeah. The Backdraft is ignoring all the block when you have stealth as well. If you run like a Backdraft team. And I believe that's it in terms of... oh no, Ransack. So she gets 2 stealth against a combo, and that's pretty much it. But I mean, that's most of the kit, right? And they did something with Cauterize where it heals 1 instead of 0 to try and work around the negative affinity hit that it used to have because you couldn't heal them. And instead of fixing that, they just added 1 point to Cauterize, but then when you get to Survivor, the bug still is there. It moves somewhere else. So, a bit weird. Anyway, Runaway Wanderer is better. Like, these are all just improvements where she still has a lot of her old stuff, but then, you know, she has a little more piercing or burn dealt and stuff. Stealth acquisition if they are comboed. And so, with that in mind, Runaway might be a B, or at least the original. No, we'll do an A. We will do an A. So yeah, pretty solid. It's pretty good. It, I mean, she has synergy with stuff, and stealth is like she can make it herself with like run and hide, but then there's also items and some other skills that also stealth, which are nice. So she has that. Arsonist changes, where I don't think it says anything here, yeah. Arsonist is... she burns herself to do damage to the enemy, and the goal is to burn yourself and kill them before she dies. This is much more dangerous than Ravager, because Ravager has a lot of built-in protection. Arsonist doesn't have as much built-in protection. And even if you guard her, she can still die to her own burns because they're going to be big. She gets like big self burn. So she gets up to 6 speed and then the extra 3 damage on burn if she is at the full stack of 3. And if you look here with Searing Strike, she self burns and burns the target. Firefly self burn, burns the targets. Dragonfly self burn, burns the target. Hearthlight takes the burn off of her and gives it to someone else. It can heal up to 15% of her life. Firestarter copies someone else's burn to herself, or the ally can give the burn to her. So not copy, just take it, siphon it. So it can just target anything that has burn, which is kind of weird. And the master version stealths herself and has a lower cooldown. So you're doing all of that to hit Backdraft. Backdraft hits the entire enemy team, deals half of the damage bonus, or the damage of the burn on her, to all of the enemies, and then doubles the burn she has. So presumably the next turn, it'll be almost twice as strong, but it ticks down too, so it's going to be a little less than that. However, when you get to the master version, it does way more, it does 75% of the burns. The goal is to have her self-burn enough, and the target has to be on fire too. So her whole thing is to get enough self-burn built up on like turn 3. Okay, so that good benchmark where you want the fight decided at turn 4. By turn 3 or 4, she has enough self-burn that she hasn't died, but Backdraft will kill all of the enemies or Death Store them. Easiest way to do that is with Plague Doctor using Magnesium Rain. But you can also do her stuff like Controlled Burn or, Dragonfly, Firestarter, stuff like that. And then you Backdraft. So, as a whole, the path is capable of some really ridiculous damage. And you always have Hearthlight if you just need to burn a specific target. So it's like the boss killer version, which is arguably stronger in some cases. And with that in mind, since it doesn't have the built-in protection of Ravager, it's not as good as Ravager. But it's still capable of some really insane damage. So, do we make this A or B? I'm gonna make it B. It can do some really, really strong damage. And it can end the fight easily before she dies. However, she doesn't have the built-in protection and mistakes happen. Or the unpredicted happens. Where most of the time you can limit RNG so everything's in your favor. However, since she's always building up speed when she's burning, if she ever gets tapped to Death Store, she's going to have +6 speed and the Death Store debuff is like -3. So she'll have +3 speed from where she's at, which gives her a very high likelihood of going first, and she might burn herself out doing that. So it's not as safe as Ravager. It's still good though. It takes a lot of work, and it's pretty fun for sure. And it's kind of a hard one to rate. Like, some people are probably going to be telling me that this should be higher, but I don't think it's safe enough for what it's trying to do. Which is honestly fine. Like, I don't want everything up here. I want everything in these two, which is more preferable. Let's see, who's next? It's Survivor. Survivor is just kind of bad. I'm just going to say it straight. Where the whole stealth gimmick through Smokescreen is a little too not good. And it would be nicer if the hoops weren't as plentiful to jump through. So she gets stealth synergy again, like Wanderer, and some of it's pretty strong. So she gets guaranteed crit with 2 stealth tokens. She can increase burn duration by hitting them with stealth tokens. Combo, she does a ton of damage. So just looking at Searing Strike right now, if they're comboed, she has 18 damage. If she crits them against combo, it becomes 24 damage. So it gets like 1 extra tick, which is by itself isn't that much. Like, it's a 33% damage spike, which is okay. Damage over time usually doesn't tick for the full value in most fights, because they're over so fast, or like, at a consistent 4-turn pace. Again, better for bosses. Even though that is the case, just looking at the master version, you have 2 stealths, so it's guaranteed crit. That is a 7 plus half. It should round up, so it should be an 11 damage hit, plus 24 in burn, if they're comboed. That, it's 35 damage crit for 2 stealth. That's not bad. That's up there with the other, like, heavy hitters, like, a boosted chop, a Hellion that's not, like, totally maxed out, but, a good Hellion, a Dismiss with, like, a strength token. It's up there with those, except all the damage comes in after 4 turns. So, realistically, these crits are doing closer to, like, what did I say, 35? So it'd be, like, taking 6 off that, so about 29 or 23. So around there. This trend continues with Hearthlight, where if the target is stealth, not just her, it just happens to be her most of the time, then she can heal them per stealth token and give them regen per stealth token. Then when it's mastered, it also removes stress. With no threshold, they just need to be stealth. So, for example, if you have a Shimmering Powder, which is an item that instantly gives you 2 stealth for using it, she can throw this on someone on her own turn, and then heal them for 20% plus 4x3 regen and 2 stress. That's a pretty strong combat item, if you want to roll it all together like that. Otherwise, she's going to stealth herself and get that, unless you're doing something with Occultist. And then Ransack, if you have stealth, it removes it, and it steals a token per stealth token. And when it's mastered, it steals up to 4. However, I don't remember if she can steal Riposte, because she can't use it. So I don't know if it just takes it and it disappears, or if it stays on them. Like, there are only a couple times that interaction comes up, and I can't remember for the life of me what it is. But yeah. All this comes into Smokescreen, which is where she gets stealth. So after she hits Smokescreen, whenever she gets attacked, she blinds them. If it's mastered, she also combos them. And then it also moves her forward. However, the turn after, she gets 2 stealth. She does not have a lot of HP. She is not a durable unit by any means at 33. Even her dot res outside of burn is not good. Which means her chance of, like, some chicanery happening is rather high for that. And she gets all of the defensive benefit the turn after. So she has to stealth, and then she has to go through her turn, hand out ideally 2 blinds, maybe 3, because if she gets attacked anyway, she's still going to do it. So if you get 2 or 3 blinds for that turn, and I guess the next turn, if they go before you, and some combos, then it did its job. However, like I said, the low HP makes it kind of dangerous, and then she gets 2 stealth after. The issue with these stealth tokens on these moves is that the moment she presses it, it takes both. It's not something like she gets to generate the 2 stealth, use 1 for some awesome stuff, and then use the other one for another boosted thing. So like 1 Searing Strike and then a Hearthlight, or 2 Searing Strikes, 2 Hearthlights. Like, yeah, that might be good, might be OP, but you'd have to, of course, balance it to match that. But Smokescreen, get the 2 stealth, massive crit to like offset the, or massive heal to offset the turn you just spent. It's okay. So, like, if you're leaning into these, it's different, but if you ever, go back to this other stuff, for instance, like Firefly getting the Res Pierce, you get that Res Pierce for 2 turns, or I guess that's just the main one, because the rest aren't really stealth synergistic now. However, it looks pretty cool doing that. So this is one of those paths I almost think it's better to almost ignore this, which is strange to say. So you could use something like Run and Hide and then Firefly, and that could just be it. Run and Hide, Firefly, and then you're just throwing out giant bombs that have res piercing. That's actually pretty cool. This is actually my first time thinking about that, and it's like, oh, that actually makes some sense, Something else I forgot to mention though is that Arsonist and Wanderer have the good smokescreen that does the combo, the double blind, and the vuln, and they take it away on Survivor for this. And I don't think this move is that good. Just because it has more inherent danger. Instead of going, I'm shutting down this enemy and making it vulnerable and comboed so someone else can just absolutely nuke it, you're just saying, I'm going to try and blind this guy and combo it maybe if I have the mastery. And then the other one that attacks me, it might be the same person. Who knows? I can get hit 3 times, and that's cool. And then I stealth after. And it's not one of those things. It's like a delayed impact. So you have like a low tempo turn of taunting and handing out these tokens, and then the next turn comes around, and some stuff is set up. Your teammates might be able to capitalize on it, and then she's in stealth, and she can do something, so... Usually, when you press buttons, you want them to have immediate impact. These delayed impacts aren't bad, but in terms of like turn-based combat, it's usually better to get higher value quicker than it is to delay it. If that makes sense. Orphan has this entire paragraph where if she stays in place, she gets burn bonuses, so damage duration, and if she moves on the turn instead, so if she's staying in place, she gets those, and then she moves, she gets +1 damage that stacks, so it's up to 2. And these can actually overlap, so you can get like a big dragonfly, for instance. She just has to move from a spot and then go back to it, so she fulfills both criteria. She has to end where she began, but she also has to move to get the benefit. So if you're just doing that the whole time, then she'll have everything, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. In my experience, it's usually better to just let her sit in a spot and just spam Firefly, like old Arsonist and some Orphan gameplay. Otherwise, yeah, everything still has a little bit of stealth synergy. And looking at the tooltip, I'm surprised they didn't use the same formatting, because where it says target, 1 burn for 3 turns if has stealth, is the same thing it is on the Wanderer version, where it's +1 burn dealt when self has stealth. I guess what ends up happening is that little distinction makes it so the Orphan bonuses don't scale? Possibly. It's a strange one. I think mechanically they're the same. They feel like they should be. But, you know, tooltips, am I right? Alright. So Firefly, kind of the same thing, just stealth synergy, damage, and this smoke screen is also a swapped one, so it's not as good. And you get stealth, but you hand out blind and weaken, which is okay. It's just not as good, because it's better to have a combo and a vuln, because it's like advancing the death of the enemy instead of protecting yourself, which is usually a losing battle for reasons I've stated before. Then Ransack, if you have stealth, it ignores, because they put it here, right? It doesn't say plus res piercing when has stealth, right? So I'm really confused by how they format that. Anyway, so yeah, she has res piercing in stealth, so that makes that stick a bit more, and Ransack combos, so it's actually a pretty good move in this case. And then we have Dragonfly, which operates the same. Just no res piercing, and then you have the damage and stuff, and no combo. Overall, Orphan is capable of some like good damage, because it's just a damage path at the end of the day. Everything just leads to damage. You want some stealth and you get damage, and you want to hit smokescreen, so it kind of is more cohesive than Survivor, I feel like. Because Survivor is a lot like Soloist, where you can ignore the main gimmick or the main strategy, where, you know, with Soloist, I want to hit a giant finale, or I can just sit on this +3 damage for the entire combat and, you know, just do great things there. I digress. That considered, having Survivor, I would say Survivor is... like, if you play the way it's intended, I don't think it's that good. I don't. I think Orphan's a bit better. I'm double check Survivor, though. I keep talking about it. Yeah, she gets this dodge token after healing when she's low life, but it's like, why can't she just have it in general so you can, like, prime the dodge for the taunt? Like, that's strategy. You have to use another thing, you know, like a skill or sometimes a combat item, in order to trigger the dodge token. And it's not even guaranteed. I guess that's what is the crazier part. Because the coin flip dodge is okay. You definitely want dodge plus. Neither are guaranteed, and you have to be under 3/4 life. So you have to be, it's not even consistent, is what I'm saying. I was gonna say a bunch of other stuff, but it's not consistent, and because it's not consistent, it can't be relied on. You know, it might actually screw you at some point. Yeah. And that makes it kind of dangerous. Okay. Now I'm happy with that. Grave Robber. My favorite character. I dropped her on the other tier list I made. She hasn't gone through the rework blender for like almost 2 years now. Wait, 2 years? Yeah, 2 years, right? Almost 2 years. Yeah, it'd be in 2026, it's 2 years. Crazy. Otherwise, her thing about getting 50% crit on combo is just not quite enough. Like, it's one of those things where you may think it'd be overpowered if she gets guaranteed crit, but like, her crits are 13. She's not critting for like, as we were talking about before, like 38 damage on Burning Star. She's just critting. She's taking a very valuable token in crits and then getting a chance to crit with it. This is on a couple different moves. She has it on Pick, she has it on Throw Dagger, and she has it on Darts, where it would be great to have the guaranteed crit, you know, but she doesn't. And they had to actually buff Poison Darts because they made crit dots a bit weaker by only having penetration instead of duration 2. And yeah, I really don't think it's a bad thing if this character could hit a crit, you know, on a combo, again, valuable token, and do more than 12 damage on a mastered Throw Dagger. Especially because once you get the crit up to, you know, in this case, 80, you know, just give it the extra 20. It's going to crit most of the time. Just give it the whole time. And if I want to spend my turn giving her strength, setting a vuln and a combo on the target, and then throw that dagger to do like 20 something damage, you know, I spent the resources, so I should get the reward. That's how it works. Using your team, using 2 members, possibly, in most cases, or combat items or whatever, on the team to set up damage, and then capitalizing on it, should be a good reward. Should be a good reward, not 60% crit. I don't know. But yeah, she got some nice changes outside of that. I mean, she's always had these, but, you know, a little more damage on flashing. Darts got stronger because of, you know, the other change for dots. And the rest of her stuff's okay. But she's just not aging well as a damage dealer. Like, when we have people that are capable of giving themselves a strength token turn 1 and not ending their turn, and then chopping for like 24, it's a little unfortunate. So I'll put my favorite character in the B ranks right now. Then looking at Deadeye's pretty much the same boat, where she gets, you know, a little more damage on these, and then extra speed and stuff like that. She's already the fastest character, though, so it's like, you know, you put her from 7 to 9 speed, she's already faster than, like, everything on the board anyway. I guess it just makes it more consistent. And then flashing gets a little more damage and some crit compared. You know, it gets from 20 to 30 instead of 15 to 20, and, like, 1 extra damage. And then the targeting and launch changes, so it's not even, like, necessarily better. It's just different. Absinthe gives her crit per stack, and then she gets like the double dodge again, which is still good. And then repartee, if she's in stealth and they miss her, she gets bonus crit for 3 turns. So repartee is just straight up a miss. Unless you have like shimmering powder into it, or, you know, a trinket that starts her in stealth and then she does it. Just doesn't feel worth. It just, again, too slow for that. Like, Shadow Fade, get a strength token. Repartee, get your taunt and then dodge or dodge plus. Ideally dodge plus because it's mastered. And then you have 2 taunt, but 3 dodge. So if they miss you twice on those 2 taunts, then you get 8% extra crit with your strength token. And then if there's a combo, you have 88 crit. You just spent 3 turns to give yourself strength and 8 crits on a move, and they have to have a combo on them. So it's like, it's just so It's so low impact to play it that way. It's better that if you're in a boss fight, you just hit Absinthe and just get stacks that way. You know, even if you don't want to wait till it's effective, just hit it for the dodge and the crit immediately. You know, and then you do 3 of those, then you have 98 crit on this, which you can still miss, which I have. Unfortunate. Yeah. Because that's the thing, it's like, if she's able to get crit from this, and it's not battle long, it's only a couple turns, get crit from this, that's battle long, and this pushes this almost to 100% crit, just give her the 100. I don't see why it's such a big request. Like, you're almost there, just push it. A little bit more. Deadeye does do some good range damage, which is usually better than no range damage, obviously. But is that better than Wanderer? I think so. You're not really trading anything compared to Wanderer. Because you have these, this does more damage, this does more damage, different targeting. This is different and better for a reason. Repartee, you're not pressing this on any of them. You just aren't. Well, you can. It's not as effective, though. Like, it's much better to do it with Duelist. Because she can just keep the dodge coming. Like, she can have 3 stacks of dodge every turn. Sometimes more if she's getting regular dodge from a different skill. Yeah, I think they're largely the same and comparable. Although Deadeye is probably just a little bit better in terms of, you know, what it's doing. Next one, Nightsworn, my favorite path. I always love Lunge Grave Robber. It's been my favorite since the first game. With Nightsworn, you have Stealth Synergy, which you can play her in place by just using Throw Dagger and flashing if you want to. But you want to hit Lunge, because Lunge gets way stronger on this path, especially Mastered, because you get the execution if you have Stealth. So it's like having a Strength token. And then also, Shadow Fade gives you a Strength token anyway. So, I'm not exactly sure how the rounding works out. Like, if it... because it should be additive with how they do it. So, I would just imagine it's double damage, like, straight out. So, it's 14 to 22 on Lunge that way. But, you know, in case one math thing happens before another, it might be off by a couple points. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Actually, I'm very certain that's how it works. But, you know, I'm never going to say it's 100%. With the math in this game, because the math is proven to be wacky. You know, that's what the whole weekend token debate was about, was the bad math that pops up on screen. Anyway. Yeah. Nightsworn, you get the Lunge, you get an interesting Flashing Dagger's Cleave, you get Pirouette, which doesn't have a downside anymore, compared to the other versions where you have to use Stealth to mitigate the downside. So yeah, it's cool. And then you have Repartee, which is arguably the best one. No, not even arguably. It's the best one out of the 4. Because she can give herself Stealth without Shadow Fade. And then put Taunt on someone else. Giving someone else Taunt is a very powerful thing, because not everyone has Taunt. And being able to spread out some damage to someone that normally doesn't take it can actually save a life at times. Obviously, you don't want to give Occultist 3 Taunt. But, like, if Man-at-Arms is on cooldown, like one of his taunt skills, or if Crusader doesn't have Bulwark up anymore, like the taunt burned out really quick, you can just throw it on him again. Or if you have a riposte hero, like Duelist dodge tanking, you can throw taunt on her, have her dodge plus through it, riposte the enemy. Or stack up Intrepid, because you're running that. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff involved there. And she gets Stealth for up to 4 turns when Mastered. Which means you can constantly throw out, like, the good Lunge, because any Nightsworn team should be built with multiple people that are moving forward all the time, or immobilizing themselves up front, in order to let her hit Lunge every single turn. Because that's how you get the most out of Nightsworn. You want her hitting Lunge every single turn. You might have a Pirouette in there, if you really want to. Otherwise, it's at its best when you can press Lunge every turn and do those big hits and hit a 30% crit, which is a pretty good amount. You know, you snipe one of those, or if you have a Heartseeker, it's up to 40. And, like, that deletes stuff, you know, because we're talking about, like, I think 22 damage, you know. So if you have the crit, that'll be 33. It's a pretty good hit. 33 kills most things outright that aren't size 2. In fact, I would say almost everything except for like Fulgore and maybe Tono. Just like there's only a few enemies that are usually champions that will survive a 33 damage crit. So with all that said, Nightsworn takes a lot of effort to get the juice. As much as I like it, it only really shines if the whole team is built to compensate it, and there's no compromise there. If you play a regular team and just have her go back and forth, you know, like Shadow Fade, lunge, pirouette, lunge, and like those are her turns over and over, it's not nearly as effective and it's not going to feel as good. So she has to be doing it all the time, which means the entire team has to be built with that in mind. Whereas something like regular Grave Robber and Deadeye don't need that. They just, you drop them in and they do their thing. And also with Venom Drop, where I might put Venom Drop in the S. It's definitely there, A, or could be the S, but let's double check here. So Venom Drop is the strongest one she has, and they kind of, when they changed the stuff with the crits and Poison Dart and all that, it kind of just feels like they also forgot that Venom Drop can get a 21 damage Poison Dart. So if she's in stealth, 21 damage every time you chuck this, you know, it's over 3 turns, which is a pretty good speed. But wait, it gets better. If you're in stealth also, or if you use Shadow Fade, you get an extra 20% piercing the whole time. This isn't even the pull of the path. Like, this isn't the best move the path has. It's just a really good single target thing. And being able to have her, you know, it hits for minimum 2. So essentially, if everything keeps going through, you're hitting him for 9 damage a turn. But like the damage is going to ramp up and synergize with some other stuff. You know, in a vacuum, 9 damage a turn is actually not that strong. But you have to remember, since all of the dots going to stack and calculate that way, the first turn you do 2, and then on their turn they take the 7, so it's 9. But then you hit them with another 7. So the next turn they're going to take 9 plus 7, so they take 16. So that's 25 over 2 turns. So when you start doing that and you get it to max stacks, but you have to be in cell 2. So when you get it up to there, you can only do it twice, I guess. But like, that's a lot of damage over the first couple turns. So it's pretty good burst potential. Like, nothing is surviving 2 of these most of the time. The big thing though with the path, as I said, you get the res pierce on this, it's flashing daggers. Flashing daggers, especially with like the Shadow Fade opener, because you get the piercing too to make sure it sticks. But if you don't need the penetration and you have access to stealth, then you're doing like Plague Grenade on better, arguably better ranks, because rank 4 dies or a corpse goes away, they pull up, and 2-3's there for a long time in the combat. Plus, a lot of size 2s don't usually occupy the middle rank. Pit Fighter can sometimes, but Pit Fighter pushes forward. Knight usually is in the middle though. So like Knight's the biggest thing in your way. Otherwise, maybe a Custode, but that's about it. Usually you're hitting 2 things with this. And you're doing a lot of damage too. It's got good crit rate. You're doing 5 blight on 2 targets. Even if it's, you know, unupgraded, you're doing 4 blight, and you have like 20 crit master, which is a good amount, because it still does on-hit damage. That's going to hit pretty hard. Yeah. And then they buffed Throw Dagger a little bit, but this move's still not great, because you have so much damage potential in this kit, you know, with those first 2 moves, that like spamming weak may not be the best strategy. However, it's still, it can be good. I guess you have some other blight unit in the team, or if you're running a full blight team, and then she can just fall back on this, you know, throwing weaken all the time is okay. Could be better, but it's serviceable. Then with Absinthe, you get arguably the worst one in a way. I don't know, it's hard to say, because like the dodge is really good. You don't get the dodge anymore, although the master version cleanses dots, which is good. You just don't get the follow-up defense, you just get the immediate removal. So in terms of damage output, Venom Drop is pretty high. And looking at it again, I like where it's at. Yeah. It's pretty solid. Overall, it's a lot of fun. Does some really good damage. And you don't really have to build a team around it. So you can argue it's a little bit better, but I think it's okay here. It's not game breaking by any means. Alright, one more. Not one more, like two more, right? Yeah. Bounty Hunter, I can't pop them up here, but like Bounty Hunter regular, so Wanderer in Kingdoms is A. Professional Bounty Hunter is S. That's the Confessions one. Because he comes in, everything's mastered, his stuff is really strong, and he has 2 stuns in his kit, and he can fit into any team, and he can do everything except heal. Insane. Abomination. The last one. Wanderer is actually really good. So you get the pull, the guaranteed combo, the crit removal, and then upgrade of the strength removal. This is a solid attack. Backlash, you get block, which is pretty good for him because he's up front, and the stun on combo is a bonus. Beast Bile can remove corpses, and it's got a crit bonus now that got patched in recently. Baker's okay. It's not bad, it's just okay. Absolution's a really good ability. And he gets 2 shots of this, but like that, it's still really powerful. And one of the things I was always talking about was that Solemnity's not as strong as this move. And the only thing you can really point at is that this has a cooldown where Solemnity doesn't. But like, look how much this heals. 50? Does Leper even get up to 50? You should, right? Okay. Yeah, but like the Solemnity launch ranks are terrible. So Big B always has good access to this move. You can do it from anywhere. And it's very powerful. Transform gives you access to the beast kits, and base A-bombs beast kit is not great. Like, Maul is kind of whatever because block isn't super common on the enemies. Rage really needs a Vuln token to just pop off and decimate. But it doesn't, you know, he can't make Vuln inherently on him or by himself. And Slam's situational, but it's not bad. And then Instinct, this move is great in Kingdoms. It's mediocre in Confessions. The reason it's great in Kingdoms is because the Beast Clan has 1 unit that can always just spawn riposte, and they come in pairs sometimes, or even 3. So just a bunch of dudes with riposte, and it does no damage, so it doesn't trigger the riposte either. Actually, it does have Vuln for Rage. Oh, I didn't even remember this. Okay. So you do get Vuln for Rage, so that does make it a bit better. Although it does damage on upgrade too, but still removes all the riposte. So you can transform, instinct something, and then you can rage it after. But again, this is like setting yourself up. Whereas it's better to just have someone throw down Vuln Hex and you rage twice instead of instinct turn, or transform, instinct turn 1, rage turn 2, rage turn 3. Like it's a turn slower. And he's doing too much of his own stuff there. But again, team-based game. Otherwise, that's about it for Wanderer A-Bomb. The human kit's great. The human kit's arguably the best on this one. It changes on Unchained, but then it's the same for the next 2. So the human kit's really good. You transform, you lose the human kit. Rake's situationally really good. Rage, situationally really good. Maul, situationally really good. There's just too many situations that you can't force outside of like the Vuln. So with that in mind, he doesn't break the game by any means, and Wanderer Abomination's much better in Kingdoms than he is in Confessions. So I'll put him up here because he's still pretty self-reliant. He can keep himself alive with Absolution. He can disrupt with the chain attacks. And you don't even have to transform. It's all like the first game. He doesn't have to transform to be really effective. Next is Fiend, which is pretty much Wanderer Plus in a lot of ways, because now you just have a stronger rage without the condition. In terms of like, they don't need the Vuln token because it's already baked in. You know, if he hits a Vuln token with rage, even though he can hit rank 3, which is important. Just looking at the upgraded version, it's 9 to 11. And then this base one is 8 to 12. So it's same average damage, but almost the same average damage, and just push it up slightly. And then as Execute 2, if they're bleeding, where this doesn't have Execute at all. And as we've been talking about, Execute 2 is the good one. If he does kill something, he heals his own stress, which is always great. Rake can stack up bleed very fast, and that's arguably as good or better in some cases compared to the other Rake. You know, like a long-term fight where the bleed can work through itself, then Rake on Fiend is better. But if you're doing something like slapping down Clapper Claws with Rake, then the Wanderer version's better. Transform is pretty much the same. It just changes the piercing. So like the bleed piercing. So as long as you have some stress when you hit it, then you can bleed pierce a bit better for a couple turns. Actually, it's just forever. I was gonna say, I thought it was just in there, right? Yeah. Ah. So as long as the stress is over 4, he has penetration. That's actually really good. Maul is kind of like slightly better bleed out, even though you take 2 stress for using it, so it's not definitely better. But, you know, 2 stress against a winded token, kind of what you're comparing to. And then Instinct on Fiend is not great, because it does a little bit of damage to shuffle the enemy party if they're all bleeding. And then he heals some stress. Like, this is such a weird ability. It's meant to be on like a huge, what is it, enemy team, or a huge bleed team where all the enemies are bleeding, or at least 3 of them are. And then you hit Instinct. You heal 3, possibly 6 stress because of all the 50%, the coin flips. So your average stress healing is like 4.5. You do a little bit of damage. But the thing is, you want to be high stress anyway, so you can hit the bleed piercing on, or with transform, by being in beast form. Yeah, this is kind of an odd one. It's pretty much like if he gets to like 7-8, then you want to hit this. But you can always just shift back. It's not a huge problem. Just, it makes Instinct feel like not as good, because instead of stacking up a bunch of bleed and then hitting that to stay in beast form, you could just have a stress healer that stress heals him, and he can stay in beast form. He can shift out and heal himself and then transform a couple turns later. This move doesn't do too much. That's why it's like almost Wanderer plus, but not quite. It still has some of its own drawbacks, but I think it's still better than Wanderer. I mean, obviously, that's why I called it a plus. All right, next. Moribund. One that could have been like really special, because it's a really cool concept where this is another self-endangerment path where he gives himself a lot of stress by transforming, but then he works it off very quickly. So the danger comes in where if he transforms and he's already at like 3 and he goes up to 7, you know, like some random stress bomb that crits him can send him to 10. Even then, just like a horror and some other stress attack can do it. So he's in danger if he transforms at anything that's like over 2, for the most part. So what you do with all of that stress is you turn it into damage. So with Rake, if he hits enemies, he will heal his stress, but then also gain a damage bonus outside of just the regular stacking one. What he does with stress is he turns it into damage. So as you see here with Rake, he gets the normal bonus damage, but if you are stressed out, then he has a chance of gaining the buff again. So it's kind of like a lottery where it ramps up very quickly. However, on hit means you're hitting 2 things, so he's healing 2 stress a turn also. So he needs to keep stressing the whole time. Rake is okay, but I think it's worse than Wanderer and Fiend, just because it's more casino based in terms of getting the damage buff rolling as high as it can. Rage is pretty good though. So if you end up critting them, you get a taunt token, which is pretty helpful. And it has 7 to 10 crit per stress, depending on the mastery. Which means you can give this move, you know, around 40 to 60 crit pretty safely and easily. But he heals 2 stress when he hits it. Maul, I think the instant kill, it's not negligible, but it's kind of a meme. for at least me. I don't think it's that good. But it does give weaken and then vulnerable on mastery, and it hits okay, like in terms of damage. 5 to 7 is pretty solid, and you can increase that. And if you hit it again the turn after, you can just keep the vulnerable on them and just keep the weaken down on them as well. So it's really good at locking something down while you burst it to death. Slam guards an ally, which is pretty helpful, because I think having another source of guard is always a cool thing. I like guard more than taunt, and in terms of the abilities, he has access to taunt and guard, even though the taunt's a bit more RNG. Especially like, I don't know, I'm just looking at this now. So you get the increased crit for high stress. So if you have like really high stress, you have a great chance to crit. And you work off the 2 stress from using it, but then I guess also potentially 1 more from critting them. So you can heal like 3 and then give yourself taunt. It's an interesting one for sure. And then instinct, this is how you keep your stress built up. As long as you don't, run out in the middle of doing everything. And you have this every 2 turns when mastered. You probably want to master this quickly. Like, even the token copy and steal is great, but like not even that important. It's just the fact that he gives himself stress. So he can, shift into beast form, take the 4 stress, do like 2 rakes or rage, maul together, or 2 mauls or something. And then he's burned off the 4 stress, and then he can instinct and get 4 back. So he can kind of keep himself stuck there. Really want to. But you definitely want something like Instructress with them to maximize it. As it stands, I think Moribund isn't quite as strong in terms of like the output. And it really wants something to like dump, like taunt on him if you have like repartee or noisemakers. And definitely you want Instructress, you don't need it, but this path feels so much better when you have Instructress. The big advantage of Moribund is that it can be like stress positive, because it can work through it fast enough to where it doesn't matter how much it's taking in usually, unless you're eating some like hollow vessel crits back to back. And that's still good. And it's the one you can stay in beast form the longest, but like the human kit's still there and it's still good too. So maybe I'm wrong on this one. This one's kind of hard to do, but I feel like it's fair right there. And then Unchained. Let's see Unchained. So my problem with Unchained is that, for one, it's kind of weird that he stays chained up. Like, he stays human. This is the human pass, so he doesn't take the chains off, which is just a little thematic thing, if you actually care about that. Otherwise, Manacles, he becomes like a mini backline dancer, so he works really well with Jester. Because Jester, Jester can go 3 and 4 easily by himself. Crusader can go forward, stuff like that. And then you have Moribund that can jump back and forth too. Otherwise, Backlash pushes you back, stress heals against combo, but if they're blighted, does more damage. Manacles pulls him forward in combos. Like, this Manacles is much worse. Although, what is that freaking mastery jump though? Hold up. Like, I know it's not 1 to 2 damage, but just 2 to 2. Like, that's... God. Like, 5 to 8. Wow. Anyway. This can hit rank 4, which makes me like it way less. And it's like kind of a mini dance thing, and it doesn't have the utility of regular Manacle. So, I don't think this one's that good. Backlash can do some damage if there's blight, so either he has to spit blight on people or someone else has to do it for him. And, then it's alright. The combo effect doesn't matter too much, I think, because you're talking about someone that has Absolution. Like, the stress isn't that big of a deal. Beast Bile hits the entire enemy team on this, which is cool. And he gets a little bit of stress. That was like the balancing factor, because it does no on-hit damage. Iker's the same. Absolution becomes like an AoE thing where he can heal the adjacent allies and cure their stress. And then when you master it, he can do it an extra time, but he can target himself, because he can't target himself normally. So the Unmastered version's pretty weak. It's not like weak, but the Unmastered version's not great. You know, it's decent. The Master version is pretty good. And then after that, you have a lot of the normal beast kit. And then when you get to Slam, it removes guard. That's not like a great effect. Guard removal is pretty helpful, but like guard isn't that plentiful from the enemies. And some of the enemies that do guard stuff get dodge or whatever. Or it'll be in like rank 4, like a watchdog guarding something, or a drummer. You can't hit that. And what's another one? Antiquarian. So like a lot of things that guard, or at least the most annoying ones, which are drummer and antiquarian, sit in the back where you can't reach them anyway. And then you have watchdog, but the watchdog is can also just pick the crack shot in rank 4 as well. And he never hit it anyway. At least it does more damage. This does 2 extra damage compared to Wanderer. Alright, the final skill, Instinct on Unchained. Could have been pretty cool. It's just kind of whack. I'm just looking at it. I've been recording for like 3.5 hours at this point, so I'm sorry I don't have the vocabulary left for some of these. It's just when I see this, you know, and the first thing you always ask is, can I do this by myself? Like, does A-Bomb need any help pulling this off? And what you can do is Beast Bile, stick the Blight hopefully on multiple things, and then transform, and then hit this the turn after, and it does some damage. The issue with like these two is that they both have 2-turn cooldowns, so it's like you can't even spam either of these. But when you transform, you have a chance of, not a chance, you get vulnerable on the target, and then when it's mastered, it removes block first, which is good. You get a stress, 1 stress. It's not per target hit. It shouldn't be per target hit. So you get 1 stress. And then if you crit any of them on your 5 or 10 crit chance, then you apply a combo. So in the ideal perfect world situation, this sticks to everyone. You transform, give him a crit token, and then he combos the entire enemy team. Even if that happens, how good is that? Well, they all have Vuln. That's not bad. And they'll have it for 3 turns or 3 actions, so I guess that's alright. What I'm looking at the most, though, also with this, is that where does the value fall off? Let's say worst case scenario, or maybe just spam Iker on a couple enemies, and then you hit this. So it's like, if this hits 1 enemy and doesn't crit, you're doing 2 to 3 damage, giving him a Vuln. That's not a great turn. Especially because you take 1 stress, even though you can work it off. You hit 2 enemies. Give 2 enemies Vuln, do 2 or 3 damage if you have it mastered, and then 1 stress. So it's 2 to 3 damage and 2 Vuln tokens. Is that good? That's starting to get good. I'm starting to think like you have to have at least 3 targets blighted to really make this shine. Although, as always, team-based game. Also, I think one of the things I forgot to mention, though, is that the Beast Kit likes to also have rank 1 stuff. And the farthest he can go is rank 2, while still being able to be effective with, like, not even Beast Bile. Iker's rank 2, Beast Bile's rank 3. Instinct is not rank 1. Slam, you know, just there's a lot of steps in between. What I do see, though, for some really cool value, if you can pull it off, is you stick the Blight on everything, transform, hit everything with Vuln, and then if you have Flagellants, you can Necrosis them. And that upgrade is 6 to 12. Alright, with that in mind, Unchained is... I can't even put everything in Intrepid tier. It just feels so bad. Like, comparing how bad Intrepid is to, like, the rest of this. You know, like, what's a bad path? Unchained's not great. It's not Intrepid, though. I don't know why whoever made this tier list included these headshots for some extra characters, but I'm about it. Who made this? I'm pretty good. Thanks, I'm pretty good. Cute pictures. Yeah. I did want to keep it distinct where, you know, it'd be like best, second best, third, fourth, like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It just ended up this way, and I feel like this is better. Where just look like the individual power scale, not just against what the same character has. You know, like Banneret is the best against all these. Base Crusader and Aggressor are still okay. You know, Plague Doctor, Wanderer, and Alchemist are better than these two. Even though these two are functionally different. You know, it's not like Alchemist is up here and Physician's down here. I don't feel that the discrepancy is that big. I guess, though, maybe I should do it. So give me a second here, and I'll adjust it that way, too. So you can look at it like this, as I had it through the whole video, and then we'll see what the other one is. Damn, maybe I should have did this way, huh? Well, you have two now. You have two versions of this where you can look at how I rated them comparatively in terms of like the actual like power level or whatever. Or if you just want like a snapshot, this is it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So just to go through it like super quick before we bounce out of here, because this video is gonna be like 3 hours. Just looking at it, like Banneret is better than all these three, even though these two are kind of equal. With Aggressor, you give up too much if you want to not use Bulwark, and I don't like that, even though Radiance is good. But like Radiance can be used on all 4 paths. It's not Aggressor specific, so don't say like, oh, now he has really good Radiance though, and it makes Aggressor better. It makes all of them better. It's just Aggressor also takes some good advantage of it. But you can say the same thing about Banneret. With Duelist, Antagonist is the best just because the debuffs and the little dancing. Duelist base is pretty good. Instructress wants a target. Intrepid's a meme. Leper base does a lot of damage pretty safely. Tempest requires a little more thought and can do really good damage too. But you have to deal with negative tokens, and those can kind of go sideways sometimes in terms of screwing you or getting you to take more damage from like a Vuln, for instance, or a taunt. Monarch is kind of like Wanderer Leper that just takes 30 minutes to happen. And then Poet's not even bad. Like, it gets hard with Leper because all these are good. It's just Poet's the worst. Scourge, if it didn't have the Lashes gift change, I don't think it would edge out Wanderer, but it's really good. And then Maniac just makes my heart break. Confessor, definitely the best one. Base Vestal, just fine. Chaplain and Seraph are kind of equal. But I feel like Chaplain gives you more, like a different way to play compared to these three, so I value it more than Seraph. This one I'm pretty confident of with Man-at-Arms. Base Man-at-Arms is insane. Bulwark's almost as insane. Vanguard can do some insane stuff, but you can also just slam damage. And then Sergeant requires some weird team building, which is a lot harder for newer players, not just because they may not understand how to do it, but also because you don't have everything unlocked. Like, Sergeant is more capable of stuff when you have access to everything, but when you don't have access to everything, like all the skills, all the paths, all the characters, then it's much harder to get value from. Alchemist, definitely really good, slightly above Plague Doctor base, just because of the extra, like, res pierce she can get on, like, other damage over time, so it's more, like, offensively focused. And it runs a lot of stuff that's similar to regular Plague Doctor. Surgeon's worse than base, just because the whole thing about stacking up incision damage, which is only really good on, like, mountain bosses, if that. And then Physician's just a little sad. Sharpshot, better than everything. Rogue, a little bit better than base. And then Yellow Hand and Rogue are kind of close, but you can play Yellow Hand from, like, rank 3, which I like more. I'm gonna double check, actually, with the let's see, open vein, open slice, yeah. So open vein can be thrown out of 3, so you can play him in the mid range and still get use out of pistol shot and stuff, which I like. And yeah. For Hellion, Ravager's the best. Base Hellion is, you know, still good. Carcass and Berserker are both kind of tied for like subpar, but this is how I'd split them. Although, you know what? We're gonna change that too. I think Carcass is slightly ass. Yeah. Warlock does dumbass damage. Aspirant is actually pretty cool, and generating up is fun. Occultist base is fine, and then Ritualist, I really wish had some help. Base Jester, I was thinking Mezzo's Wanderer Plus, but I think Base Jester being safer is more appealing, because you want to minimize risk as best you can. So I think Base Jester is great. Mezzo's like right behind it. Soloist is a bit better than Virtuoso, because Virtuoso's like, hold up, let me play like 4 songs, you know? Or you can play 2 songs and hit Encore, but it's like the fight's over. Orphan is capable of some good damage. Base Runaway is solid. She has like the stealth synergy for res pen and stuff like that, and she has the good smoke screen, which can set her pretty high in this. She might even be better than Orphan, but let's see. Let's see, actually. So with smoke screen, it's really good, and then we have Orphan, which has its own smoke screen, which is not as good. Yeah, is Wanderer better? I think it is, because it gets the res pierce, and like the buffs are better. Slightly, yeah. I don't know, like, Orphan gets more damage, though. Long term. Well, not even long term, just, you know, when it stacks up. Although, I'm going to switch these, now just looking at it, because in terms of consistency in, like, my thought process, I always value res pierce over damage, because I want it to stick. The damage that comes after is great, but I want it to stick. So I think Base Runaway is slightly better. That one's like a really contestable one, though. Venom Drop is better than these. Deadeye is better than those two. Night's Horn's better than Base. Bounty Hunter, I just had to do it this way, and I'm actually going to do this because it's pissing me off. Yep. So Fiend's a bit better than Base. Base is great. Moribund still has the regular human kit, and then Unchained loses the human kit. Alright, that's good. I like that. Thanks for watching. Long video. If you just skip to the end for the screenshot, I understand. Just don't take it out of context. Don't ask me why I made certain placements, and don't assume anything if you didn't watch the video. Alright. I'm going to enjoy my weekend, chill out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.